Rain pours over a gothic city as three of the most badass detectives hop out of one of those old detective cars wearing trench coats, those wide brimmed hats, and all that other stuff. The men approach the warehouse where the previous murders had pointed them. If Detective Kim Kardashian's hunch was correct, this warehouse would hold answers to the killings happening all over the city.
I sure hope you're ready for this, Detective Kyle Lee and Detective Kim K. I'm not one to get sentimental, and I know we've had our differences, but I don't think there are any other two detectives I would prefer to be standing here with.
Chief, you's a big old softy of the highest caliber. Come here, you big galoot. I put you into a headlock. You protest. Detective Kim K. Stop it, you two. You're being idiots. Chief, I echo your sentiments, but right now, I ain't got time for no heart spilling. I just want to solve this case. So with all due respect, would you knock it off? Cowley and the Chief. In unison.
Sorry, Detective Kim.
Kim K, tears in his eyes as he grabs their heads and brings them to his. You fine men never have to apologize to me for anything. Interrupting the warm exchange, a cloaked figure appears from the mist surrounding the warehouse. The figure's feet don't seem to even be touching the ground as it moves towards the detective. All three men pull their guns and aim it at the approaching figure.
Stop right there and identify yourself. The floating figure waves his hand and the detective guns fall to the floor as it began to speak.
I am the luminary. Your guns are of no use on me.
What the hell?
Indeed. But right now, the outer realms are not your concerns. It is this realm that is in danger. Malicious forces have begun feeding on the very fabric and flesh of your mortal world. And I believe you, Detective Kim Kardashian, you, Detective Kyle Lee Kardashian, and you, Chief, may be Earth's best chance.
Who are you, Luminary? Why are you here?
I am nothing but a teacher. I possess incredible power as well. And I am strong, and I can fly, and I can kill people with nothing but my mind.
Then why don't you stop the forces that are threatening our realm? The Luminary's eyes begin to glow as he levitates higher into the air in front of the warehouse. Its eyes glow and the air around it begins to shake.
You will not ignore this sacred charge, Detective Kim Kardashian. You will march under the banner of which you have been called. The weird women have congregated under the blood moon. Their hour is approaching, and your world is in jeopardy.
Thunder cracks.
Well done.
Well spoken.
Incredible.
Well done.
Incredible. Thank you.
It's my greatest honor.
And can I have that phone back too? Thank you very much. It's got my notes on it.
Welcome to meet you, everybody. My name's Robbie Armfield. With me is Dart Sultan.
What's up, everybody?
And it is my greatest pleasure and honour to introduce as well to the program Kirin J Callinan. Hello.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Dart.
Thank you so very much.
Yep.
Kirin J Callinan is an Australian artist known for his distinctive vocal and guitar styling. His journey began in a group called Mercy Arms, and he's released 3 studio albums under his own name since disbanding. Embracism, 2013, Bravado, 2017, Return to Centre in 2019, and there's a new one to come soon that I hope to hear more about soon. A couple of songs have been released in Absolutes and Young Drunk Driver. He helmed a pop duo, The Night Game, that toured with John Mayer, and has also lent his chops to collaborate with a number of notable names, including Sydney Darlings Donny Benet and Jack Ladder, Canadian darling Mac DeMarco, Canberran darling Genesis Owusu, American darling Caroline Polachek, among many other talented names. Provocateur is a word that gets thrown around a lot to describe your work, Kirin. How do you feel about that?
I don't really even know what that word means.
Nor do
Truly. Yeah.
And I think as well, Kirin, we're so grateful that you've given us your time to come today. It's really incredible. And we do have a gift we wanted to give you just as a small token of our gratitude, if we can, from the Welcome to Meet You pod to you. I hope you don't already have it. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck.
Wow.
I believe you're a fan of Scott Walker, I believe.
That's really very lovely.
We wanted to get you some vinyl, but it was a little hard to get our hands on.
No, this is much more interesting.
Okay, great.
Because I believe it was the tilt and the drift were quite formative for you.
Yeah, I love like most all of Scott Walker, but it was huge for me. Yeah, I don't think I'd be making music if it wasn't for Scott Walker.
Wow!
But I've never read the book, so
okay, cool.
There you go.
And just before we get into the nitty gritty, I just want to quickly, as an obligation, to shout out our sponsors. So big thank you to Smith's Chips for feeding us hungry boys today. Go out and pick yourself a packet of the new Mad Mex flavoured Smith Chips. All the spice of North America in every bite. There's nothing mad about this, Max. Smith Chips. If it ain't Smith's, it ain't shit. And a big thank you to another new sponsor of the pod, LA Ice. Wow. Yummy, yummy. Love this LA Ice. The drink is so nice, they named it Ice. And lastly, our returning sponsor, Afterpay. Thank you so much, Afterpay. Guys, if you want stuff and can't afford it now, maybe you can afford it later, if not after. So thank you to our sponsors. But yeah, let's get into it. So we wanted to...
Yeah, the reason that we're here today is Embracism is an album that came out in 2013. This year marks its 10th anniversary. And I think it's a very important work, and basically we'd just love to do a deep dive with you on the record itself.
I'm flattered, and yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for coming here. I think provocateur is it's a cheap phrase, I think, because I think what I see in your work is more a sort of a commitment to play rather than like you're not just aiming for straight up shock with all that you do.
No, I don't think I've ever really aimed to shock. I love music.
Yeah.
And maybe have been a bit naive, hopefully continue to be a bit naive in the way I make it, or who I like, even in thinking that anyone would like it. But I genuinely love music and just wanted to make things that made me that other people feel the same way I felt about the things I loved, and some of those things were maybe shocking, not things I did but the things I liked, strange and beautiful and provocative. So if that makes someone a provocateur, then yeah, sure. But no, it's never been the intention to shock.
Yeah. So with Embracism, when you say that you love music and that it makes you want to make something, that is it a way to kind of relate to other people by putting a product out there and seeing how it's responded to? Yeah,
I mean, well, interesting choice of words. Yeah. The product thing is what confuses me.
Did I say product?
Yeah, I think you said product art. Yeah, but that's all right. But
Peace.
I just. I mean, even the process of making songs, everything confused me. And I had to, it's taken a lot of different people, and, that's normal.
Yeah.
I've come to understand that that's normal, to have a band, but I kind of wanted to do everything myself.
Yeah. And
going solo at a young age was an insane thing to do. And has left me feeling pretty isolated, actually.
Really?
I long to have a proper band again that are in it together, but that's also quite a, that in itself is a naive idea, and to come back to it from a now place of knowing is kind of weird too. But so making the songs was definitely just a way to try to connect with people. Yes.
Yeah. Because in terms of being a solo artist and then being in a band, did you kind of growing up and listening to music when you first fell in love with everything that made you do what you do, was there a kind of romanticism about the idea of a band?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there still is.
Yeah.
I was like, I still feel like a teenager when I'm listening to music.
Yeah.
I was listening to the Blue Nile on the way over here. I don't know if you know that band, Scottish band.
No.
Unfortunately not.
No.
Great band. Highly recommend the Blue Nile.
Yeah.
From Glasgow. Paul Buchanan is the singer of this band. But 80s band. And I was playing it to my friend Jonty, who hadn't heard it either. And we were just like two teenagers in the car, sitting there silently and then getting excited over a certain
Losing
thing.
your shit over
it was
what's
cool.
getting played.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Going solo is an insane thing to do. What are some of the insane moments of your life?
Well, just that self-importance, and then having to all the other stuff that comes with it. Like I love performing solo, and I love writing songs. That's the easy part. It's all the other stuff that just feels so absurd, and it's got me into trouble. Whether it be online or even just overcommitting with ideas and events, and like saying yes to something like this.
Yeah.
Does it feel like what am I doing? Like, I could just be at home.
You saw me with the mask. I definitely saw a glint in your eyes. Like, what the fuck am I doing?
You like to commit.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's no two ways about it. I just flew back from Adelaide this morning, landed at 2 p.m, gave our lighting guy Alex a ride home, and then Jonty a ride home, and then I had to go straight into this meeting with a distribution company about upcoming music, hence why I'm here a bit late. And now after this, I'm going to do this. After this, I've got a acting masterclass over Zoom.
With one of those classes, those masterclass courses that you can buy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
This is called Sexuality on Screen.
Right. Who's it hosted by?
Kim Ferrant is the director.
Okay.
She did Strangerland with Nicole Kidman.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Among other things, but so I've got a Zoom call. So I guess that's what I'm saying is maybe the insane thing is that ambition, and then having to do it all yourself, as opposed to something like a band where you sort of share the load and hold each other accountable, and
Well, I really wanted to actually
inspire each other.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to explore that with you because I was just coming back to Embracism and coming back to when I pick up my phone, I'm looking at my notes. So I'm not like checking
sports
Twitter.
bet.
And if I do check Twitter, it's because no. I wanted to. You've got on the opening track, Halo. You've got this lyric, mistaken for a priest, the entire clergy toasted, fix me up, a half-cut clown, what could I do, couldn't let you down. And you talk about this being struck down and being mistaken for a priest, and also just, I noticed this kind of repeated theme in some of your music, and just also with, I personally, I'm the same as you. I feel like a teenager when I listen to music. I'm obsessed. And something I really love about music is I feel like it's one of the only mediums where you can, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, kind of judge a book by its cover. I feel like an album art is really telling of maybe a sound that you're going to get, or a level of irony that you're going to get. Do you ever feel that way? Have you ever been drawn to something by know that you're going to like it from the album art?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Whether it's telling, I mean, I think there's plenty of great records with terrible artwork.
Oh, for sure. What do you reckon the shittiest artwork is that comes to mind, album art that comes to mind?
I'm sure there's an example I was thinking of recently.
Robbie and I always joke about that David Bowie photo album with he's like him, he's like a little animated with the big dolly eyes.
Oh yeah, I know the one. Yeah.
It's fucking
so I'm pretty into that.
Reality.
Yeah,
I know. I love that one.
Yeah.
But
I hear. I don't know. My new album artwork's pretty bad.
Is it you? Is it?
It is. It's a picture of me.
So this is what I wanted to ask, and coming back to that original question, being a solo artist, and do you and some of the, I don't want to keep talking about the trouble that you face because I kind of hear what you're saying, but is there like a feeling of like deifying yourself, do you think, or like kind of putting your like sacrificing yourself?
I mean, in the lyrics or in the
lyrics, but also I get the sense that you're like, I feel like your music is very maybe like an exaggerated telling of your own story in life. And I feel like
no doubt. And I was going to say with the lyrics, for me personally, probably wouldn't want to give away too much, even if I could. But I don't think I could because you write them the good ones anyway, in a flash of inspiration where you're connected. Just not to say that it's going to mean anything to someone else, but you have this sort of some idea that you connect to and get excited by, and that's when the words flow. And you've forgotten it almost as quickly as you did it, let alone a decade later. And all the meanings change as well. Often I feel like I've written a song and I won't know what it means or where it's come from, but it has some resonance and feels correct. It's about not being full of shit, but you don't necessarily know what it means, and it reveals its meaning often after it's, if not after it's, just after it's complete, but after it's released and after other people have heard it through their ears, and I don't know, or you've sung it a bunch of times live, and then sometimes you're very conscious of what you're trying to write, which is often not the good ones. Yeah, but then sometimes really can be. I wrote a song. Should we wait for the
keep rolling
the chopper?
Keep going. These are directional mics.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I wrote a song last year that I wasn't thinking about. Wrote it really quickly, 5 minutes, and then got up and sung it on the mic. And as I was singing it, its meaning hit me, and I was just a mess. I was, tears. Which that's a cool thing to have, I guess.
Can we ask what song, or is that revealed?
It's not released yet.
Oh.
You can't fuck the fucker.
No. Well, see. No, I'm not precious. I'll tell you anything.
Yeah.
Great.
You did play that song live. That's how I know about it.
I've played that one live. Yeah. That's not even on this album that's coming up.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
God damn.
I'm thinking that's the title track of the next record.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Then this song is called People I Love, which isn't probably even on that record. So I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
All right. That's very exciting. Bring it back to the 10th anniversary of Embracism. It's an important record. I just want to know, how was your life around this time? 2013.
2013, I'd been in a relationship for close to 3 years with a beautiful...
It wasn't right for you.
Yeah, it wasn't right for me. No, with a really inspiring woman. It was like, to this day, the most witchy and intelligent and insightful person I've probably ever known. I'd lost my virginity to her.
Yeah.
And then not seen her for many years, and then we reconnected 5 years later, and then ended up in a relationship. She'd had a kid in that time, and so we were living together in the Blue Mountains. I was, helping, doing my best to help raise her child, and
wow,
I was working as a maitre d' at the local bowling club. I was coaching a kids under 15s. I was 25. I was coaching a under 15s boys soccer team at the time.
This is wild.
Well, I'd gone down to I'd had a life as a professional musician.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Mercy Arms had formed when I was 18 or 19, and we'd, at the height of that, been a hyped band and flown all around the world with a bidding war of record labels, and ended up signing a $1 million record deal to Capitol Records when I was about 20.
Wow.
But by the time I was 24, that band disbanded. We did the Big Day Out tour, 2009, and I was 23, and then broke up, and then I know that's right. And then I joined Jack Ladder, and I did that, and not by choice. I didn't seek it out. I just sort of got the call, and joined his band only because he'd broken his arm.
Oh, right.
So I'm giving you the real full backstory here.
No, this is as deep as we can go.
I told you when I arrived, I hadn't given this any meditation before coming here, and so I wasn't really sure what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely fine.
So it's all coming back to me now.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I joined. Jack Ladder fell through a bus shelter. I think maybe the story was there was some woman making advances on him, and he wasn't interested, and he was backing away. Very, trying to be the most gentlemanly thing he could do was just sort of fall backwards through this bus shelter, breaking his arm.
Right.
Wow.
And he's 6'7", so it's a big fall, I suppose. And so that's how I ended up joining his band. They needed a guitar player for the tour, and with Donny Benet, or who would later become known as Donny Benet on bass, and Lawrence Pike on drums. So I joined this great band. But then we did that for a couple of years, and that's when I got together with my ex and moved up to the mountains at some stage. But then I wasn't really making music, and I had this idea that I was going to start a kids' football coaching clinic for kids in the school holidays or something. And so I went and did all my soccer coaching badges. I was qualified enough to coach an A-League team.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite, but I did a bunch of badges. And then I went down to the local club, the Hazelbrook Hawks, and put my hand up and said I'd volunteer to coach a team to get some experience. And they gave me this under 15 boys Division 2 team, who were amazing. I was only 25, so I was only 10 years older than them. But they were, I think the parents were very concerned about who this cross-dressing, flamboyant man was coming down to coach their kids. And I was wearing a lot of dresses at the time. And the kids were, I think it was weird for all concerned, but we had this incredible first training session that all the kids were in hysterics laughing by the end of it. And we ended up going all the way to the final and winning the final, and I got hoisted up on their shoulders, Mighty Duck style.
Wow.
Anyway, this is the backstory. We broke up, and I left the mountains, and I was pretty much homeless, living on my sister's couch, and going into the studio of Kim Moyes from the Presets every day, pretty much, and made that record. Yeah.
How did you know Kim?
He had been one of Mercy Arms' first big champions. Our first ever big show was supporting the Presets at the Gaelic Club.
Wow.
He had produced the Valentino's first EP, and I was in that band.
Oh, cool.
At the time. So I'd known him. He'd been there for the formative stages of my first ever professional recording or, proper release, the Valentino's EP. First ever big show with Mercy Arms. Valentino's first ever big tour, we opened for the Presets. And then sort of then, cosmically came together for him to then be the person producing my first record, which was him putting his hand up and saying he'd love to do it.
That's wild.
I'd been trying to chip away and make the record for a while, and it was a mess. Yeah.
It's really fantastic. And can I just quickly sidebar, the Presets, I just want to say, is such a great name for a group. Mm-hmm. And
it's like the Smiths.
It is. Yeah. It's a slow burn of a name. You realise 3 years into knowing, they're like, fuck, that's good. Yeah. My friend Jordan has this idea that, I'm not sure how the name came about, but my friend Jordan has this idea that they were sort of lampooning another group, being like, oh, they're just like the Presets. And then they thought, oh, that's great, let's have it. Do you know if there's any truth to that?
I don't know if there's truth to that. It's entirely possible. I do know that both Kim and Julian are really trained jazz musicians, and sorry, maybe not jazz, but they went to what's the castle in the park? The Australian
Conservatorium
of Music. That's the one. They're conservative. Conservators. That had been doing sort of avant-garde and improvised music, and then at some stage they went, fuck this, let's make as dumb a dance music as possible. And it blew up to become the biggest band in the country. So yeah,
Wild.
Such a cool
I think
story.
it was quite a cynical name, but very funny, and they take their music incredibly serious. And the Presets, for me, are one of the great modern Australian bands.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Before we move away too far from the under 15s soccer team, could that have maybe even subconsciously inspired Embracism, the song?
Definitely. Never considered that. But
Wow.
the song was more literally about my own high school experience.
Right.
But being reconnected to 15-year-olds, which I swear I hadn't hung out with any 15-year-olds between being 15 and 25.
We just vibed. I vibed with 15-year-olds.
All the badges.
which was strange, actually, in itself. Realizing, fuck, I've not hung out with people this age since I was that age myself,
Yeah.
and how much you change, and then how much I was straight back there with them.
I guess a little bit of context for that time. I believe the last time we spoke, you said that you were the school captain.
I was
at your high school.
Well, yeah, I had a question here. I wanted to know what kind of kid you were in high school, because Embracism, the lyrics paints a pretty brutal picture, and which it is. It's like Australian high schools, for boys, and I'm sure for everyone, it's very brutal. Was that your experience, or like what was it like?
It was an experience. I wouldn't say it was the all-encompassing experience.
Yeah.
I loved high school.
You loved high school?
I loved it.
Right.
It wasn't lost on me at the time. Maybe people realize this later, but at the time I was consciously aware that I might not be able to just go to a place every day and hang out with my friends.
No.
And laugh hysterically, and just that's what we did every day, so I loved high school, but I wasn't a model student or anything, and the fact that I became school captain was an anomaly for sure.
How did it happen?
It was a Friday afternoon. I was heading home. I think it was Mr. Grunsight, maths teacher, who I don't think I even did maths.
Sounds like a Hogwarts teacher.
He just, Mr. Grunside, some sort of half man, half orc creature. No, he said, if it was him, he said, Kirin, are you auditioning or whatever, up for nomination for school captain? I was like, no, I didn't know it was happening. He said, I think you'd be good. I'll put your name in your hat in the ring. All you have to do is write a speech over the weekend. Speeches are on Monday. So I wrote a speech over the weekend, and one by one, everyone gets up on the Monday talking about if they become school captain, they'll, it'll be free little lunch on Wednesdays, and the teacher's car park will become a basketball court or something. It's just, everyone bored and whatever.
What was your platform?
And so I just got up, and I didn't even mention school captain. I just impersonated some students, some teachers, bit of a song and dance routine. And it went really well, and everybody voted for me. I think there was an intervention. One of the top teachers was like, I know some speeches were more entertaining than others, but this is a very serious vote, and everyone, I think I won by a landslide.
Interesting choice of words there.
Interesting choice of words.
Hell is right here on earth.
Well, actually, just to quickly
pivot back.
I was just going to say, Dart, though, that there was one experience. There was a place, I went to Barrenjoey High in Avalon.
Yep.
Public school. It might be the most northern public school in Sydney.
Okay.
Don't know about that. We can have a geography check maybe. But went to Barrenjoey High, and down along the side, the western side of Barrenjoey High, was a Poo Creek, like the sewer, and there was a place there called Thunder Alley where the fights would happen. And this was really when I first went to the high school, year 7, year 8, the older kids would be there. By the time I got to year 12, it wasn't really a culture thing. I think it'd been there for a long time, but the shifting sands of the age. Yeah, it was no longer a thing, but I remember being junior kid there and seeing the older kids fighting quite regularly, especially if you're from Avalon versus Newport.
Yeah.
I remember an older guy by the name of Clown.
Fuck, that's intimidating.
Yeah. In a fight down there, maybe with a Pittman brother or something, you know?
Good Lord.
Yeah. And... Oh, no, Clown was on the side. No, it was Clown. He was like the ringleader. And it's just like, hit him, you mutant. Hit him, you mutant. That's what I remember.
You mutant.
Yeah. And so that was really where the Embracism sort of world was set.
Was that quite a visceral thing to witness, those older kids fighting in the...
Oh, yeah. And I remember I got into one fight.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah.
How?
Tell us more.
Yeah.
I think I just... sort of a set-up fight, and maybe I'd moved to this high school and hadn't grown up in the in the area at all. Grown up in the West and moving to the beaches, it was a very territorial thing. I didn't surf, and I just sort of got pitted again. I was a very small kid as well, and got pitted against this one other kid, David Lane Cuba.
I love that you remember the
name. Yeah, if you're listening or watching, David.
It's always the first and last name.
Yeah, totally.
with high school, David Lane Cuba.
Yeah, I wouldn't know most people's last name. Like, I don't know your last name, Dart. I don't know your first name.
Yeah,
either, but,
exactly. Except when it comes to Clown.
Yeah.
Clown. There's no birth certificate there. It's fucking mayhem.
But I just punched David Lane Cuba in the head, and I'm pretty sure I
made him forget his last name.
That was bad. I think I broke my wrist or hand in the process, and I've never hit anyone since.
Wow. Did you cry afterwards?
Probably.
Yeah, I think I've cried after I've been in 3 fights. I've cried after every one, like secret tears.
I cried after not punching somebody.
What happened?
That's understandable too.
Like you wish you did.
Well, it was at a school camp in New Zealand, and have I told you about this? I can't remember. But anyway, there was a possum. There was a possum and a brood of possums that were sort of around our campsite, and everyone got it in their head that they wanted to murder these possums, and so they grabbed sticks and they circled them and they bashed them to death, these possums. It was horrific. It was horrible.
I'm smiling a little bit. I'm trying to wipe the little grin off my face because there's not one part of me that...
It was disgusting, and we had a trail leader that was, leading us around sort of up the hills and all that sort of thing, and I said, what's going on? What's happening, Mm-hmm. And they really laid into it. You could hear the spine snapping. It was
awful.
Fucked up.
But possums are quite different in New Zealand.
They're a pest in New Zealand.
Yeah.
They're a pest in New Zealand.
They're not as cute though. Is that right?
Oh, I suppose not. Yeah.
Like I'm just trying. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm trying to understand the hatred, man.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a bizarre thing when I came here. I was like, "You like these things? This is wow." I can't speak. We can Google them. Let me have a look here. New Zealand possum. But anyway,
possums here are quite vicious.
Are they? Yeah. I heard recently about a thing called an
Sorry?
No, you go. You finish.
The opossum.
Yeah, have you heard about an opossum before?
Big curly tail.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Would you bash it out?
Yeah, it looks the same as any possum.
They're quite cute. It reminds me of that. Have you seen that meme, Kirin and Robbie? That one where it says, "You best believe if E.T., me and my friends found E.T., we would have beat it to death with sticks."
That's exactly this. Mm-hmm. It was so... What's that? Salt Island? What's the boys get all together? Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. Possum blood to sustain the rituals.
Anyway, I wept. And I didn't touch any of them. So...
And you wish you stood up for the possums. That's a very sweet story.
I should have done something.
That is a sweet story.
Sweet.
I should have done something.
I'm glad you weren't one. I wouldn't have. I was a piece of shit when I was a kid, but I wasn't beating up animals.
No.
And lots of kids were.
Yeah.
I remember there was one kid in high school who nailed a cat to a fence or something.
Oh.
But he was crucified at school for that, like for being an absolute freak. You know, this wasn't a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
This was one of
What the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly.
I always had this idea on the topic of animals at school, or insects. I always had this idea that, you know, you can buy like 1 million maggots. Like you can buy to like feed lizards and things like this.
Yeah.
There's a big stairwell at our school, and we always had the idea that you can just spend $300, put them at the base of the stairwell, just watch what happens.
Just watch.
I wish I'd done that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You still can.
Still can. Yeah, exactly. In the dead of night. All right. So, Embracism, 2013.
2012, we're making it.
2012. The year's 2012. We're making the album. It's obviously a very distinct album. You know, it's got it. People would say it's maybe harsh. There's harsh elements to it. There's a lot of guttural screaming. There's a lot of heart put into the lyrics, I would say.
For sure.
It's a very lyrically dense and intriguing piece. But the concept of anger comes to mind just because of the sheer element of those aesthetics. Was it an angry time for you? It feels like there was a response to maybe something in the scene. That
I was angry personally with my relationship falling apart and the way that did. And I had a lot of heartbreak, which turned into anger. So there was a bit of that being channeled. I think also I had up until that point from, you know, as a teenager and then throughout the time in Mercy Arms, certainly been exploring, you know, with my own expression of gender and you know, especially on stage, but also not in high school before that, whether it be in makeup or dresses or whatever. And that quickly became quite boring to me.
Experimenting with dresses and makeup.
Yeah, especially with like a man exploring his femininity as an aesthetic. You know, it had been done to death already. You know, by David Bowie or whoever else.
Yeah.
You know, and it you know, this not in a drag way, but like in a sort of provocateur or artful way. It just felt really played out and boring to me, and I got kind of, as a young man, into the idea of exploring my own masculinity, and that was way more interesting and not something I'd heard in this way anyway in music. You know, I'd heard metal, or I'd heard, you know, sort of proud patriotism or something, you know, or like Bruce Springsteen comes to mind, but just in my own suburban Australian way that wasn't punk music or something, but it's getting to the core of it. But I wasn't thinking too much about that either, really. It certainly wasn't like certainly not a political thing. But that was all in there, no doubt. But, you know, for me, I also thought I was making pop. I was completely delusional. I really thought, and I thought that Embracism was, when I was making it, I was concerned that it was watered down and, you know, compared to the thing I'd been making prior to that, which is what was my album, but it was just chaos. But that was real, that was harsh, you know. Embracism felt much more contained.
Wow.
Yeah, which was Kim bringing a certain level of focus and professionalism to the process. You know, it didn't have this as much raw chaos. So comparatively, it felt really straight, but I think he recognized that there was enough raw chaos and drama and violence and weirdness going on that we didn't need to try to amp that up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's so interesting when you talk about kind of exploring, you know, gender as an aesthetic and feeling that it's played out, and then you talked about kind of a proud show of masculinity, right? Mm-hmm. Embracism for me, and I would say a lot of your music, and if this is wrong, like, tell me straight up, but it feels like for me a real criticism of masculinity. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that? Not in a way that is that is so black and white, as in masculinity's bad, but it almost poking fun at it to explore it.
Yeah, I mean, it's poking fun at myself and criticizing myself, and inherent in myself, especially as a young person coming into their sexual energy, coming into their identity at all, and trying to work out who they are. I sort of had quite extreme feminine and masculine energy, I think, you know, and I was definitely trying to tap into myself and let something real out, but it wasn't necessarily any sort of criticism, or it wasn't even necessarily conscious, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
It just either felt true or didn't, and then you try to work out, you know, what's wrong there, or you drop it altogether, you know, or you doll it up to make it feel as you know, you muddy the waters a bit to make it seem deeper.
Yeah.
I covered myself in grease to slip away unnoticed. For me, these are some of the greatest opening lyrics of an album. Full stop. One of my favourite album opening lyrics. Was it an easy choice as the album opener for Embracism?
No, it was pretty obvious. Yeah. And there's a little sort of instrumental opening sort of stanza that was a little leftover relic from the recordings I was doing pre-Kim, because really I think the vast majority, if not all of the record in the end, Kim and I redid together. But initially it was him coming in to make sense of the mess I'd created. And so, lyrics aside, already musically it felt like the perfect way to open the record, with this sort of clue to its origins, and before we then drop into the you know, elevated studio version of events, you know, to Kim's, you know, which really couldn't have happened without Kim. As the lyrics, again, I can't say for sure because it's 10 years ago, but if my process now is anything to go by, I try not to be too cerebral about it, or even if you are, your idea the following day can be totally different. So it wasn't necessarily a conscious, this is the opening of the record, but I would have just liked that, oh yeah, that's sort of interesting, this cry for anonymity as you're putting yourself out there is the first thing you know, and you make this big statement. It reminds me of, I covered a song, and it's the least favourite of my covers on Return to Centre, but I cover Vienna by Ultravox, and there's a through line here, because in the chorus he sings, "It means nothing to me, it means nothing." It's like, bullshit, it means nothing to, you know, it's quite amazing saying it means nothing when it clearly means everything. And in a way, maybe this opening lyric had that same sort of interesting contradiction. Yeah, because, you know, I love, especially in my personal life, I love the truth. But often in art or in my own work, because I'm close to it and I know what's true and what's not, it's actually the untruths or the lies that are more interesting and even more revealing. You know, I could tell you something true about myself now and you'd say, oh, okay, cool. Or I could tell you a lie, especially if I was doing it not as a social experiment, but if I just happened to tell you this weird lie, if you were discerning enough, you'd be, that doesn't feel right. So that's a lie. But why is he lying? And that sort of opens up this whole thing that actually is maybe more revealing of who I am than if I told you a single truth, you know? And so I think, I've lost my train of thought a little bit, but that definitely, and especially in Bravado, and we're not talking about that record, so I won't go on about it, but...
next anniversary.
Yeah, exactly. But that was actually the evolution of trying to find truth in lie and beauty in ugliness. Yeah. And I think that's what was happening here too.
It sounds so. Embracism started at the end of this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Was it something that needed to come out? Like, was it like a tension and release from, because tumultuous relationships are all encompassing, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you changed where you were living, your lifestyle, a lot of things. Was it kind of a returning to?
Well, I just wanted, and still do, just want to like be happy and satisfied. And so in a relationship, I was playing this happy families up there, you know, raising or helping to raise a child that wasn't mine, working as a maitre d' at a bowling club, coaching a kid's soccer team. Like, it was psychotic, the lengths I'd go to just feel normal. And then when that fell apart, like, I wasn't making music up there really, you know. I wanted to, don't get me wrong. I had ambition to, but it was much more comfortable to go home and, you know, cook some dinner and have a screaming match.
Were you fighting all the time?
Yeah, by the end.
Ah, fuck.
And I've not had a relationship, you know, before or since that was like that really. So there was a lot of energy pent up, obviously. But yeah, the sound of the crickets is so cool.
It's nice.
It's nice.
It's
yeah,
so
it's a good vibe.
With the candles and shit. Chilling.
Cicadas? Crickets?
Do cicadas exist anymore? I feel like they only existed when I was a kid.
I think they're stink bugs now.
We don't have cicadas, but we do have stink bugs. Yeah.
But yeah, I think so. Then when that ended, I had to do something, and making an album was again just some sort of exerting some level of purpose or control in my life.
Next up, we have Embracism. It's track 2. I think it's good that it's track 2. I think it's so bizarre and so unique. It's still very unique, I think. I can't place anything similar to it. There's the throb. The cadence of the vocals is bizarre. Mm-hmm. But it has its own...
mostly because I couldn't really sing. Truly.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, there's...
I don't know, yeah. You helped out some shit later.
Because you do it live exactly how it sounds, you know. So there is like I guess that pop element to it, right? That there's sort of a rhythm that you're sticking to.
I think I'm a bit on the record, it sort of changes key throughout the verses. Or at least the first verse. Then when it hits the chorus, it's actually a different key. It sort of misled you into...
Yeah. Sure.
I'm not sure. I haven't listened to it in a while, but yeah.
I guess you must have known that you were onto something special. What was the session like for this song?
Yeah, this is my favourite on the record, and for that reason, Robbie, that I think it's completely original.
Yep.
And so, you know, say what you want about anything, you know, but if it's original, you can't really take that away from it, you know, and I think this is a rare example of something being truly original. It was me and Kim were slaving away at Landslide, a track later on the album that is, you know, for those that haven't heard, a slow sort of...
beautiful ballad.
Quite beautiful, but pretty much it's like a lake, you know? Doesn't really change gear, and we're like almost falling asleep working on this song. And really scratching our heads, like, you know, how are we gonna? It's because it's a delicate thing to make a song like that engaging and not just really boring and, you know, awful. But as a refresher, Kim was like, "Let's just do something brand new," and it was kind of, you know, most of the songs I had written in some form before working with Kim. Even if it was just a little guitar idea, let alone a lyric or something. But this one was one that we did totally from scratch, where he just started that wah, wah, wah kind of synth thing, and very quickly sort of built this sort of atmosphere world.
Yeah.
And then I picked up a guitar and did what would become the chorus, the wah, 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 whatever the harmony is. And... felt like these choirs, you know. So I think then we put some synth choirs on there as well. And then we sat with this really strange, cool instrumental for ages. So it was, and this was early on in us working together, whipped up that instrumental in a day. And then it sat as an instrumental for most of the making of the album until on one flight, flying back to Sydney, flash of inspiration, had the vision of Thunder Alley, of Clown, hit him, you mutant, and wrote the lyrics very quickly on a flight in one sitting. It's just sort of flowing.
It's violence that matches the instrumental. It goes off.
Well, I'm not sure if I was listening to the instrumental and writing it.
Oh, right.
Or if it was after the fact I realised, phrasing could fit with that.
Yeah.
Because the rhythm's not even clear. The feel's not even necessarily clear in the instrumental of Embracism. And maybe we hadn't had the hi-hats or something, so it was just more of an atmosphere. But I went in to Kim's studio and I was like, I've got this thing. I don't know if it's going to work. Let's give it a go. And belted out that vocal first time, and Kim was convinced that was it. This is the thing. We're onto something. So I followed his lead there and we refined the vocal performance, and, there's a bunch of lyrics that hit the cutting room floor, and yeah, it was, I think, then probably done that second day. Yeah, but like I said, huge gap of maybe several months in between.
Wow. And Jack Ladder is credited on a lot of the bass on this album. Was he on that one?
I don't know.
Let me have a look, actually.
Yeah. Does it say who plays on each song specifically, or is it just a list of musicians?
Jack Ladder, fretless bass on all tracks except Landslide.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Unmemorable performance.
Yeah. I was going to say I think he was on his fretless bass, but I just couldn't be sure because it's
it sounds good.
Yeah.
Whatever's on there, it sounds pretty cool.
Interesting that he's not on Landslide though.
Yeah, that's got a.
Is it?
That's a P bass, Fender P bass. Sam Dixon.
That's who
Chardonnay, Sean, and Landslide.
Yeah, very good. He was a good friend of Kim's from the Conservatorium of Music.
Really good.
That I think Kim just thought Tim, Jack Ladder's bass playing wasn't up to scratch. Those ones.
Okay,
so he got his conservatorium buddy in, but yeah.
I feel like Landslide. I want to jump around because I feel like you said that you were bashing away on Landslide, and that's how you got to Embracism. I feel like they are sort of brothers or sisters or
in a weird way,
compadres from this album that they kind of represent the yin yang of this album for me.
Sure. It's like a moment of reprieve.
Opposite side of the same coin.
In track 2, track 9, beautiful.
True.
Is it okay? Would you feel comfortable to recite the lyrics of Landslide for us?
Sure. I could play it on the guitar if you like.
Oh, really?
Gosh.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
you don't mind.
Yeah.
Is it that one's better?
That might be better.
Oh, yeah.
Would you feel comfortable doing that?
Yeah, I haven't played it in a while, but
would you mind holding the microphone just next to the guitar there so we can get the? Yeah, it should reach. Yeah. Maybe
onto this one. Oh, that's the guitar.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just sort of make myself at home.
All right. Yeah.
Excuse me. Bit nervous now. Don't know why. Again, why I agree to these things. This is.
It's okay just to recite the lyrics.
I mean, what would you prefer, Robbie?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Let's start to play it, and if it's like it was for Kim and I working on it, where it's boring and whatever, we can.
Okay.
I'll just talk you through it.
Go ahead.
Does anyone have a pick?
I actually don't.
I can think. Oh, yep. Awesome.
Hugh. Nice.
Thanks, mate.
I was going to say we could use one of these.
We use one of those Smith's chips. Thank you,
Smith's.
Oh wait, is it Smith's? Who's the sponsor?
Smith's LA Ice
And Afterpay.
But there's a Smith's flavor, the Texan.
Oh yeah,
barbecue
the
or something?
new Mad Max.
Max.
There's Mad Max, there's Subway, and there's Red Rooster.
Yeah, Red Rooster.
Red Rooster flavor.
Red
Yeah.
Rooster flavor.
That is really fucked.
Edit that out.
Anything like what Red Rooster sub, a Red Rooster pineapple fritter flavor,
Just
like,
in
the
general.
restaurant.
oh yeah. Here we go. I rode my boat for 1,000 years with the river tide, searching for the ocean. I drifted downstream, the banks all closed in. I berthed at the next dock, said, take me for a landslide. At a previous port in Spain as a child, I knew your face. It made me smile. We struggled then as we suffer now. Further downstream we'll be courted by the trials of the landslide. Live, it's a landslide. We are dirt, falling with the landslide. Life, it's a landslide. There's a river of souls, but right here, it's a landslide. Dust and dirt, dust and dirt. Dust and dirt, dust and dirt, dust and dirt. Sea, sky and dirt. Sea, sky and dirt, ocean and dirt. The stars are all dirt. The stars are all dirt. The stars are all dirt. And God is in the water. 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 Excuse me. And hell is right here on earth. Hell is right here on earth. Hell is right here. God is in the water. God is in the water, and hell is right here. Though we may walk the land, we're tied to the sea. The moon pulls the tides inside you and I, and under our souls the earth and sea grind. We are dirt, falling.
Wow.
Wow. Beautiful. Thank you
I
very
love
much,
that song,
Kirin.
man.
That was gorgeous.
My pleasure.
Incredible. That was beautiful, man.
Do you need a spot of LA Ice after that? Or?
I've been eyeing it off.
Dude,
I
do we
throughout
have a
that whole
cup?
song, you were just, I just saw. No, that
do
was
we have a
really
cup
beautiful.
Oh,
Oh,
you got a
great.
cup? Okay.
No, that was absolutely gorgeous. Thank you very much.
Do you want some more pizza? You want a dump?
Yeah, let's have one each. Actually, let's do that.
There's a chive and prawn, and there's
A chive and prawn and a pork. All right, I'll have one of these. I'll have one of these yellow ones. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Need a full. Oh. I don't know if I can fit it through my mask mouth hole. Dumplings and LA Ice. And a whole whack of Smith's chips.
Should we just pour it in the bowl?
Nice.
Now, as we say, we're big fans of that track.
Yeah.
It always goes off live. Everyone is very reverent of it when you play it, and rightfully so. It's a tender and classic Australiana feeling. Now, I see on the credits, your father is credited on the piano, which I think is a very tender and moving and very tasteful performance. It's emotional and propulsive. Did you provide him any directions on that performance?
He's a very good piano player. Sorry. Choking on a
We
dumpling.
often talk on pod. Feel free to.
Yeah.
People hate it.
He's a very, very sensitive and tasteful piano player. So I sort of had to get him to be even a less tasteful. but then ultimately, because there was lots of sort of lead runs, really classy kind of stuff, and we just had to keep it really simple. I think for the vast majority of the song until the very end, it's just really, a novice piano player could have played it, but he does have a delicate touch.
Deft touch.
If
Some
I'm
of the
allowed
best
to speak
songs.
of my father like that.
A deft touch. Now,
But it wasn't lost on me, the sentimentality of it too. Oh, what do you got here?
We've got some beers.
I'd love a beer, actually.
Oh, okay, sweet.
we've got a Bolter Easy Hazy tonight.
Sean.
So whenever
easy.
you like a drink, I mean, this is pretty much what I go for alongside the LA Ice.
Oh, is this yours, Sean? Oh, Sean. Sean's giving me his beer. We did a shot before you came here as well, but I know you're driving. Yeah.
Don't know
Well, I was
why that's
going
relevant.
I was going to say we could do a shot.
No, I think we were having the Easy Hazy.
Cut it
which
with
is-
the LA Ice.
which is one of our favourites. Now, Landslide, it's one of the rare moments on the record that I think feels entirely reverent. There's not, I mean, I can't believe we haven't used the word humour yet, but humour seems very prevalent throughout this record. I think you've said in other interviews that, like, it's lost on people mostly when they hear it, just how funny you thought it was at the time.
I did think it was genuinely quite funny.
Yeah.
The Embracism video clip is an example of something I thought was really funny. And in retrospect, it's quite hard to find. I don't know if it's been censored or something. A bunch of my videos have. But this one, it's just hard to find. But it's on YouTube. I don't know why. It just doesn't come up. But it's really weird in retrospect. Like, I thought it was really quite funny. But it's very uncomfortable viewing, and maybe the song is uncomfortable listening. But yeah, Landslide has a bit of humour. I always kind of thought...
In Spain as a child.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wasn't in Spain as a child. I went to Spain for the first time last year. Worst country in Europe.
You heard it here first.
But what were we talking about?
The humour in Landslide.
Oh, yeah.
Is that one of the ones that's an exception on this record?
Yeah,
or
not
is
really.
it-
The lyrics were very, they were coming from a true place. A bunch of the lyrics, the "God is in the water" line, which is probably the most powerful line of the song, was something when coaching my kids' under 15s boys soccer team. We'd sometimes have these sort of philosophical chats as a training, and try to keep it in the context of football or sport or something. And we worked out that we all needed to be hydrated. I didn't want people coming to training or the games dehydrated. I wanted them drinking lots of water throughout the night, and so collectively came up with this idea of water being the essence of our power and of life, and that God is in the water. And I think that was this one particular kid, actually, who's not getting any publishing or anything like this. You can forget about it, but said that at training. Yeah,
He said God is in the water.
yeah, or
Something to that effect.
something to that effect. Yeah,
Damn.
Stephen
and
Dunstan.
Yeah,
it's
that's wild.
fascinating to me how much of this album it seems to have extended from this coaching
yeah,
experience.
well, it was a profound experience for
Yeah.
me, and I probably learnt more than the kids. it was a profound experience for me, for sure.
God is in the water. I mean, it is profound. How were you? I mean, can we touch on spirituality or religious leanings?
Absolutely. Let's go.
At that time, how were you in that way?
I'd say pagan anarchist.
Okay. A lot of acid.
There had been a lot of acid, but more in my late teens, early 20s. So now I was in my mid 20s. Not so much acid. Little bit. But definitely new age, esoteric, pagan in belief, if not ritual. Interested in, everything from meditation to conspiracy theory.
The divine feminine.
Just the divine, anything divine. We had a lot of ghosts.
Shit.
In the Blue
in the
Mountains?
house in Lawson, in the Blue Mountains.
Wow. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Please.
So I mentioned that I'm living with my partner and her son at the time. Still her son now. But not mine anymore.
Good for them.
It never was mine. He, really cool kid, but he would, he had a bunch of imaginary friends. One from the, you wouldn't believe this, but one from the burnt down women's hospital across the street. That was now just sort of rubble and a turret, and the building next door was now a sort of small community library. But it was formerly a women's hospital or women's refuge or something that had then burnt down. Pretty sure it was a hospital because I think his imaginary friend lived there. He was born there.
Yeah.
And so there was things like that that were interesting. And then we had, I remember one night in particular, storm raging outside, and heard a voice, which had happened a couple of times, calling out to us from his room by name, but it wasn't his voice. But you get up and you go check on him, of course, and sure enough, he's fast asleep. And then my ex and I went to bed, and the door into the living room from the hallway latched shut, and as did the bathroom door, obviously, but also the window, I'd latched that shut because it was raining and windy and cold outside. And went to bed, and there was the sound of children running up and down the hallway, laughter, feet on the carpet, and occasionally calling out to us, even by name. And then the doors that I would shut, that you had to pull shut, could lock. The windows that I'd locked would open, and so I'd have to go up and go close them again. Now, we'd had a few ghost experiences at this stage, and so I wasn't particularly rattled by it or spooked, but I did get fed up, and I was lying in bed, and there was all these sounds going on in the hallway, and I sat up and said, "Fuck off, this is our house." And it seemed to go deathly silent then, and even the wind outside seemed to stop, and it was a few moments past of silence, and then there was just a big doosh, doosh, doosh on our window to the front patio, and my girlfriend screamed. I jumped up, went straight over to the curtains, opened them up, and there was nothing there. And I don't think we had any more ghost experiences after that.
Damn.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
I try not to look around when I'm
When you're,
when I'm in a house at night. I just keep my head down.
Have you had any ghost experiences since then?
Yeah.
Really? So
Yeah, but not probably as just. It wasn't like, what was that?
Yeah.
Or was that my imagination? Just the other night I had a silhouette, a shadow of a witch across the ceiling.
No.
Yeah.
Damn.
And
What?
and I've seen this witch as well I've woken up and like seen this witch standing there I'm in a sort of sunken area where my bed is, and up on the mezzanine in the dining area, a witch standing there, and then I've sort of rubbed my eyes and looked, and it's just the hat rack, but
Yeah.
she was standing in front of the hat rack kind of thing.
Oh.
But I also happen to have a big witch's hat at the top of the hat rack.
Okay.
But this was the one that was the most,
Yeah.
just like it wasn't, there was no question about it. It's just like there's children playing in our hallway at 2 a.m.
Wow.
Does that how do you feel after that? Does that inspire, or does it just straight up terrify?
There's a certain, you feel a bit special.
Okay.
Most people don't have ghost experiences. You have them, I've had a lot of sleep paralysis and sort of visitations of weird demons and stuff.
Really?
As well, yeah.
Oh.
The weight on you feeling?
Yeah, that one a little bit. The worst one was this little guy that used to come. I haven't seen him in years, but little, old kind of creature, but about this tall.
Yeah.
And he'd jump on the back of my neck
And
just want to hump.
he'd
hump.
He'd hump the neck.
And and he was horrible. If I like fought him off
Yeah.
in my sleep paralysis, like trying to move to fight him off, it would just make him hornier.
He'd get pleasure from that.
Yeah, and
because
so
you're
I just had to-
participating. Let it happen.
I don't care. I don't believe in you. Whatever.
Yeah,
and it just sort of go away.
Yeah. Did he finish?
No, I can't say ever.
Yeah. They never get to finish.
If you mean, did he come?
Did he come? Did he come?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I don't know. How
You
to answer that.
resisted. Well done. Well done.
Something that comes to mind when you speak of a little demon creature is the toddler song that you parade on stage. When did that come about, that song?
That was a little bit earlier than making Embracism, I think. It's been there most part of my solo career. It's been a song that I've only ever done live. I've wanted to make a record called The Toddler, actually. I've tried to record it a number of times, but it's difficult. But that song came about with Jack Ladder. We were on a flight. Excuse me.
It's all right.
Back from Brisbane, and a lot of songs on flights. Sort of sans distraction or ability to be online or something. But there was this little old lady sitting in between Tim and I, and she spent the whole flight telling us about her grandkids, Bundy and Cola.
LA
She's very
and
proud,
Ice.
showing us pictures, and one on the way, LA and Ice. And we loved this story and were right there for it, and wrote this song, The Toddler.
Wow.
And then went to Tim's place straight afterwards to, finish it and put chords to it, and wrote this, just a little sort of ditty called The Toddler. And then I'm not sure how it came about, but I think it was just a live, probably because I had nothing else to do, and maybe there was an encore or something, so I just sung it a cappella. And that's where the form, and and so since then I've tried to record it with music. I've tried to record it a cappella, but it doesn't really work either way. But live, it's an a cappella piece that
I think it works in that way.
Yeah, well, it's so performative, and physical.
Yeah.
I think it's special to keep it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Very good. I want to touch on, is it okay if we go through some songs?
That's what I thought we were doing.
Yeah, let's do it.
sweet. Come on, USA.
Come on, USA. Springsteen. I cry when I listen to Springsteen. I was reading Pitchfork's review of this album at the time, which I think was given like a 7.4 or something like that. It's a well-received.
Respectable.
It was a respectable number from Pitchfork. I don't know if we care about Pitchfork. But they were talking about in that review about Come On USA, you know, the double entendre, all this sort of stuff. I always just took it at face value. Come on, USA. I cry when I listen to Springsteen. Come on, you know, you're not the bastion of freedom as you once were. Let's go. But they were bringing on that other sort of sexual element that had never occurred to me until yesterday. Is that something that...
He does say... He does. I'm talking... I'm not used to having you here when we talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You say red, white and blue... all over you.
I know. Yeah. I feel so stupid, but that was baked into it, wasn't it?
It was.
It makes a lot of sense.
Double entendre.
Yeah.
It was deliberate. It was originally called Come CUM on USA, and Kim Moyes was the one to say, let's just call it COME because we want you to be able to go tour America, and this could be a problem.
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
And I don't know if it would have legitimately been a problem. I've since been banned from America anyway, so...
Wait, what?
Yeah, I got deported from the States.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, when did that... I didn't hear
That
about
happened
this.
back in 2017. I've since lived in America, but I need a visa.
Right.
So I can't just go there on an ESTA. It's a pain in the ass. It's quite expensive for me to be able to go to America.
Oh, no.
And that's how the Big Enough video came about, right? Because you were telling me
that's
that...
correct. I was flying to Joshua Tree, Pioneer Town, rather, out California there, near Joshua Tree, to shoot the video for Big Enough, which is going to be Alex Cameron and myself sort of dancing around this cowboy town like, Jagger and Bowie dancing in the street style. The film crew, the director Danny Cohen, Alex and his crew, they're all out there. Molly was my girlfriend at the time, the Whistler, who's in that song, and in that video. She came to the airport to pick me up, but I got stopped at customs. I'd been recognised on the flight by the stewardess, and she'd given me a set of Qantas pajamas to welcome me aboard, which I slipped into and just fell asleep and had the best sleep. Woke up on the tarmac, everyone getting off the plane in LA, like Qantas pajamas, most comfortable pajamas. And so I just put on these boots and spurs and a cowboy hat and in full sort of grey Qantas pajamas outfit, went through customs, and the guy didn't like me there, really. And he suspected I was coming into work, which I wasn't. I was coming there to shoot a music video.
Right.
Which isn't technically working. I was spending money rather than making money to be there. But he went through my phone and saw that I'd done a tour with Pond around the States a few months earlier, and I think I might have been between visas then, so you can't get paid to play live. And he suspected I was, so sent back. But I felt incredible relief. Something seemed wrong about going to do this video.
Right.
On the plane before falling asleep, I'd put that down to the fact that I had shaved before the flight, and I was thinking, fuck, a cowboy isn't going to be clean shaved. He's got to have facial hair. He's got to be rugged. Oh, fuck this, And in the end, my relationship with Molly fell apart not long after that. She was at the airport to pick me up, and and I couldn't get over there, and then but more importantly to the video was that that then laid the foundation for me having to shoot my scenes in Australia. So it became this split screen of Alex in Pioneer Town. They went ahead and shot him there without me there, and then shot me back in the Victorian Alps in the snow back in Australia, creating this sort of fire and ice duality that is that much more interesting than had we just both been gallivanting around the desert.
Yeah.
The video, and it was obviously Jimmy screaming in the clouds that made that video go viral, and as absurd as it is. But I think the thing of this story of two cowboys but separated by a great distance was far more interesting than us being in the same place.
Yeah.
Was it...
Beautiful story.
What was it like having that go viral? What was it like being viral?
I don't know.
It wasn't
strange. It's more the aftermath of like trying to being known for that, you know, or even just weird experience of meeting someone and they want to listen to your music, and are you on Spotify? And you're like, yeah. And you just know that's what they're going to go hear.
Yeah.
And I think it's not just the top streamed song on my Spotify. It's like there's a radio edit and then some other edits that's like, and it's really, of all the songs I've ever done and all the things I've ever been a part of, this one feels like the most far from actually what I do. Which was the intention. You know, Al and I's intention was to make something so tasteless and tacky and, you know, using Ibiza tropes from 2011 or something sort of sounds when we were making that in 2015. It was like just old enough to really not be cool or interesting, but not old enough to nowhere near old enough to be throwback or retro or something. And it's like that's the good stuff, you know. And it's a really weird song to be known for now. The viral thing, I don't really. That was just funny and just you went with it, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Can I just quickly about Come On USA? Did you write it? Listening to it, it feels quite antagonistic. Mm-hmm. Was that the intention, or?
Definitely because of the style. It's definitely feels very violent and aggressive.
Yeah.
But I love America and at the time romanticized. I hadn't lived in America at the time, and all I was listening to, and it's amazing talking about this, realizing myself how much of the record, as theatrical as it is, how much of it was informed by my personal life at the time. When I was living up in the Blue Mountains, all I really listened to was Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, wow.
I loved Springsteen, and my girlfriend at the time really hated Bruce Springsteen.
Right.
Which made me love him even more. I just listened louder on every road trip. I loved Bruce Springsteen.
Did you ever cry when you listened to Springsteen?
All the time. Yeah. All the time. So that was just very literal. And there was some antagonistic, you know, vague, half-assed political thing that I didn't even really know what I was saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy to attack America.
Punch up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and especially, like I said, with some vague sort of critique. But it was more, actually, I had this great reverence and love for America and love for the idea of it. And I guess that's really it's kind of dumb song, which I think the best songs are. But was just about, there was this romantic idea I had of America, this America from the 70s or something in this, you know, Bruce Springsteen's America, or 80s, you know, that sort of James Brown living in America kind of America, you know, that Eddie Murphy America where that's just the best place on earth compared to the sort of what at that stage was maybe the beginning of the crumbling empire, you know?
Yeah.
And that's all. It was just a very dumb
Yeah. I love the placing of that song because I feel like you open the album on like a real like Halo with it's such a beautiful track, and then you open with, and then the second track Embracism, and then I feel like you've kind of introduced yourself, and then when it's like Come On USA, it's almost like this is what I've got. And now, like, opening yourself up to the rest of the world is like and like maybe that's just like a user, me being the user, like experience. But I really, because for me it's a real statement album, and it almost feels like a challenge.
Definitely, and I think this is because the album is interpreted as, often you see the word industrial associated with it and violent or whatever. And after these three songs, it returns to a bit of that world later with Stretch It Out.
Yeah.
And Way to War.
And Way to War,
yeah.
But they're the only other two songs that really tap into this universe.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's ballads and
Smithsy
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
in terms of Victoria and Chardonnay Sean and but it was important when working out the track listing to make a statement, and felt by putting 3 of those songs that sort of had some through line, in energy at least, and but also they all used the slicer guitar and pitch shifting guitar pedals that I was using a lot and still do. So there's this sonic world that made the album feel very considered and deliberate, when actually it's not. Actually it was a haphazard collection of songs that had never, made it to be Mercy Arms songs, or that then, with Embracism or Come On USA were things I wrote while working with Kim,
Yep.
Yeah, but it definitely gave it this big, strong brushstroke to begin with, that set the tone. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How did it go live in America? Did you toured this album in America?
Mm-hmm.
Did it go down well?
Yeah. I would have forgotten about this, but I was reminded of it recently. Did a show with Ariel Pink, or did a full. My first US tour was a big tour with Ariel. On the bus with him, which was amazing. But there was, I think, the LA show. And it wasn't premeditated, it wasn't some stunt, but I was wearing USA boxer shorts and just made some joke before playing the song. Would it be a federal offence if I defecated in my shorts? And that actually, to my surprise, I thought that would have been quite funny, but that didn't go down. Even in LA at the time, it felt more patriotic than what I thought it would be, or something. I don't know. I just thought that was me just being stupid. But
It's a great idea.
Yeah, but generally really good. And the song, the main refrain of "Come On USA" definitely works in America. Yeah. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Robbie recently had his 30th and he wanted to have a themed party. It was a diaper party where everyone wears diapers and defecates.
Nice.
Yeah, throughout the night, but it didn't end up happening.
No, 40th.
Yeah. He'll do it for your 40th.
We'll talk later, Robbie, because I've got an idea that aligns with this. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
cool.
Victoria M is the next song. If it's okay with you to go along with it. Your dad plays piano on this one as well.
Does he really?
He does, according to the credits.
I'm just going to quickly
Please
send a text message. I just realised I have to do this acting masterclass.
What time is that?
Do it right now. We can get it up. We can get it. We actually have a projector here if you're interested. I guess I particularly like Victoria M's. I believe it was recorded before the Embracism sessions. That's what I think I've heard. And I guess we'd best talk about Afterpay because we haven't touched on that in a little minute.
Have you Afterpaid anything recently?
I Afterpaid the Dark Side of the Moon 50th
Deluxe.
anniversary very box set. That one goes for half $1,000, which I didn't have now, but what I was able to do is get it later, so I can pay after. So that's arriving in 2 weeks, and that's got a 74-page music book, and it's got a 220-page sort of hardback book of ephemera. Yeah.
And you got your drone.
I got the drone as well, which I should bring it out, shouldn't I? I mean, what about you, man? I mean, Afterpay is so handy.
Yeah. Yep. I got all my tattoos on Afterpay.
I actually think that's true.
Fuck you.
Is it true?
No, it's not true.
Oh, okay.
That was paid hard cash. Mum paid for one. I paid her back.
Let's touch base on your new tattoo. Can you bring it up? Stand up and show the camera if you can. So that is a character from
the video game
Blue's Clues.
Bloodborne,
that's right, sorry.
Do you like it? Be honest.
I think you're on a bit of a tattoo tip right now, aren't you? You're really loving them.
Yeah, I've been getting them.
It's hard to stop, isn't it, Kirin, with the tattoos
And dumplings.
and dumplings. Just afterpay it for once. Thanks.
Thanks. Victoria M.
Victoria M.
is such. So before we go on, do you, with the acting class, do you want us to stop at a certain time?
It's already 8:30. It's getting a bit late. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna do this and then speak to her tomorrow.
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
No, truly. I mean,
We
that's
can't get 3 songs in, and I mean, I kind of like that idea, and then I've got to go do some acting masterclass. But sexuality on screen.
It's complete. We won't be offended. We've taken up so much of your time.
yeah.
I'd like to do this properly. This is
Fuck
enjoyable,
yeah.
man, and I'm underprepared for this, and yeah, I'll try to
All right.
do that properly tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Because otherwise I'd be half-assed with her as well. Look, hopefully she's not too mad, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, mate.
Um,
So Victoria M, I believe it was recorded before the other. It feels like an earlier recording. Is that right?
The song was written way before.
Yeah.
The song I'd written when I was 20 as a Mercy Arms song. And, my songwriting career in Mercy Arms, never really got off the ground because Tom, the lead singer, refused to sing the songs that I wrote.
Why?
What?
Yeah, which, had this sort of basis that it had to come from him. I don't know. He was just very insecure, really, or had control issues. But I can understand it too, not being able to sing someone else's. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Go nuts. Look at the fucking smorgasbord. Your behaviour is fitting.
Like this 2-day-old dumplings that I've flown in my backpack from Adelaide is just it's not necessary that I'm eating them whilst sort of
Drinking LA
going
Ice
between
and
LA
beer.
Ice and a hazy pale ale or whatever it is.
Do you need another beer? Do you need anything?
No, I only drank half of it.
Okay.
And I've noticed myself waffle off in weird ways drinking. I want to be more present. So I'll stick to the
sure,
LA Ice.
Yeah, the hazy's a bad
The hazes
choice.
will do that.
Yeah.
Do we need a toilet break of any
No,
sort?
I'm good.
Okay.
I already went right
Okay,
here.
good. All right. Oh, and Dart's going right now. Okay, we're fine.
Victoria M is such a hilarious song to me. The way you open it, and it's like, I don't want to butcher the lyrics. I've got them here. When you say, we'll move into this new home, but I'll still keep my secret. I'm in love with 2, but I could never tell you. It's the most building up this narrative that you being in love with, well, first the concept of being in love with 2 people, and then that just being just the most provocative, amazing, all-encompassing secret. It's just so funny to me the way you sing that line.
I'm glad you found it funny, Dad. It was very distressing for me at the time.
I was nervous talking to you about some of these because some of it I know is funny, but I'm not sure which parts you intend to be funny or not.
Well, with this one, I don't think any of it I intended to be funny, but that's fine. I mean, my big problem with contemporary artists, I found at the time, or at least I thought, and maybe still think, I don't know. I don't really care anymore. But when I really cared, my problem was that it seemed no one was prepared to be funny, and that to not I find sculptures, even like Michelangelo's David, is pretty funny.
Yeah,
with his little penis, and I don't know, he's just kind of funny. And this is a classic work, like most, the human experience is a 360-degree experience. Will have grief and heartache and anger and all this, and it'll also have a whole lot of humor. And in fact, I find it's humor that dominates my life. I'm laughing more often than I'm angry, or heartbroken. And but it felt like so much of contemporary, especially, you know, as opposed to Springsteen seemed very funny to me, or, you know, Warren Zevon or Scott Walker, you know, punching a pig, or, you know, it all was very funny, if even in morbid kind of ways, where it felt like the music I'd hear on Triple J was afraid it was either silly or really earnest, and both were equally as uncomfortable and ugly to me. And so I wanted to be able to write a love song that also had a sense of humor, or self-deprecating, or at least presented in a way that was. Or I wanted to be able to, or be violent, and you see the absurdity in it, you know, and try to have a 360-degree, or just to be human, you know. And that's an ambitious sort of idealistic idea, and I don't know if I accomplished that, but that was definitely conscious. And Victoria M was a confession, you know.
What were you confessing? So you said it was distressing.
It's completely literal, you know, something I couldn't say to the person I loved at the time.
Right.
That I'd met someone else, that I was in love with them, but we were moving into a new home together, and I didn't know how to... I'm sorry.
It's a lethal combo. What were we thinking? Yeah.
No, I'm telling you, it's the dumplings, because it did the same thing to me yesterday in Adelaide.
Okay. So that person that you had met, that was before you moved to the Blue Mountains.
Yes, this was a previous relationship.
Right. Okay.
Where I thought I might have been in love with two people. I'd only fallen in love with one person, so now all of a sudden to be confronted with two, and not knowing the language, like how to confront an issue like that as a young man. And so it just went into a song, completely unguarded and unfiltered, really.
Wow.
And of course my partner knew the song, and, you know, played it for her when I wrote it. And we never talked about it. But that, I suppose, was the confession, and the acceptance as well in that, especially releasing it, although by the time I released it was long after the relationship had ended, but I was playing it live back then and demoed it, and and in fact that song, there's a different version of that song on a sort of unofficial first album of mine from before Embracism. Was called Am I a Woman Yet? That was a collection of songs I put out in 2008, which had that on there. Yeah.
Wow.
So a long time before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you mind if I go
Please.
to the toilet just for a second? Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
We were moving into a place together.
Yeah.
You know, signing the lease, and then I had fallen in love, or so I thought, with someone else.
Yep.
And I'm just thinking about the lyrics. We'll move into this new home, and I'll keep my secrets. I'm in love with two, but I could never tell you.
Yeah.
I think I don't know what else the song says. Repeats that line a few times.
Yeah, it's kind of top heavy with the narrative for sure.
Yeah.
What happened with the other woman that you thought you fell in love with?
Eventually, I decided to move into the home and stay with my partner, and cut it off with her. But it wasn't. It was all very complicated. Like I said, I was 20 years old. You know.
Yeah.
Which these days would be much easier just to have a conversation instead of having some elaborate songwriting confession thing. Yeah. Still haven't talked about it to this date.
Really?
So this might be.
Are you one of those people who like keep in contact with your exes?
Generally, no, but this one actually, not keep in contact, but we're still on good terms and friends. Yeah.
Cool. Interesting.
Yeah, it's not like we're, you know, she's since had kids and
right.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
And I don't think she's going to watch this, but my mum will probably watch this.
Will she?
Yeah, probably, just occurring to me now. And she'll be able to put the pieces together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Will that be a conversation later?
Maybe. Yeah, knowing her, yeah, but it's fine.
Hello to Kirin's mum if you're watching. Thank you.
And thank you very much to Kirin's mum for the dumplings that she made me last time we spoke.
Oh.
I was at your place and she made us those dumplings for dinner.
Is this, so this dumpling is a...
Oh my God, yeah, it is. It's a recurring thing.
Yeah,
it is. How bizarre.
Yeah.
For Welcome to Meet You listeners, Robbie did... was it an RML episode?
It was an RML episode. Yeah.
With Kirin a couple of years ago.
I've been pestering him for quite a while and he kindly accepted my offer and we had a lovely chat about a variety of things. Yeah, it was very nice of you. Thank you. And thanks for being here today. So we're with Kirin J Callinan right now, Sydney artist, performer, entertainer.
Juggernaut.
Alt-right.
Fucking dickling. You liked one of my Instagram posts once, not as a dart song, but as my real me.
Yes.
And I called you it was a show that you played in Melbourne, a solo show without the band a number of years ago at the Croxton Band Room. I don't expect you to remember.
I remember that name. What it look like in there? It was like
it's quite just an expansive like room. It's very it's very bland. And I met you at the merch table afterwards, and I said, "Oh, you know Robbie," and like I think I just kind of overwhelmed you a little bit, but I posted a photo of you and I called you a force of positive masculinity, and you liked that photo.
Yeah.
Do you like being referred to as that? Did that?
No, I just would have liked the photo.
Damn it.
I don't think I even would have read it, to be honest.
Fair enough.
But you know what? That wouldn't have been lost on me as being a show of support, which I'm assuming was maybe in a time where I was being called a symbol of toxic masculinity.
Yes,
or something.
correct.
So, that would have not been lost on me as just being someone being, supportive, if not, critical of whatever other bullshit.
Yeah.
So I want to touch base on something you said before about artists that you were sort of having issue with at the time of veering towards silliness but never active humour. I feel like we are in a tide right now of too much of the opposite of that almost, where there's like, I don't know, how does that sit with you?
Well, look, at the time, me growing up, I didn't think there was much humour in music. It does seem like there's a lot now. And I'm sorry. I take full responsibility. I don't know. There's very few things that are genuinely interesting, there's lots of interesting things, but that are genuinely powerful and original. And so I'm not too much of a critic anymore, as I just don't care.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But when I hear something amazing, that's when I get excited. I still get just as excited as ever, but I'm not as angry and tribal. Like I just used to hate music that I didn't like, And I think that's maybe common for most people that are,
We're not. I don't think we're haters. Robbie and I have talked about this in the past, and we've said that like the fact that we love some music so much, the other side of the coin is that we,
of course,
exactly. And when we're hating on this music, it's not to say. It's to explain, just exactly that. It's the other side of the coin, and it's the other side of the discussion as to what doesn't work.
You got to have both. Yeah. And I've my main concern when I haven't hated things anymore is I've lost a bit of edge as my love been diluted simultaneously. Where now you maybe just to be safe or to be non-confrontational or just not to be consumed by it, you now live in a world of mediocrity. and accept it. But don't think that's true. I just don't have time.
Do you think
Yeah.
being an artist and being in the industry, maybe you've gained some more empathy for
Yeah, I think it doesn't serve. Look, maybe in retrospect it might have, but at the time I felt it didn't serve me to be elitist and had to consciously put my elitism to the side in order to get along. You know, if you're playing a major festival and you think all the other artists are dog shit and you let them know, or you can't hang at least, 'cause, you know, it's not going to make your experience particularly pleasurable.
No, that's exactly right.
Um,
I think, Robbie, you and I would both, like, we would cower. Like, we wouldn't like tell these artists that we think are dog shit.
You mean like if you're confronted with Amy Shark at a music festival?
How do you know? That's someone
just
that
a
we've
hunch.
fucking literally rallied against.
We have talked a lot
I called
about.
her a white Converse the other episode.
She's the white Converse of
Yeah,
Australian
she's
music.
the up ponytail.
I don't actually know if Amy's watching, I don't actually know what her music sounds like. That's maybe more offensive.
That's fine.
But I just had a hunch that she sucks.
What? Yeah. No. This is my opinion alone, and I think that she needs to do better. Yeah. But it could be. I don't know. I don't want to single out. I think hate is as lovers.
Mm-hmm. Well, very classy segue there.
Thank you. Nor weaker or as strong. That whole bit. I love it because it baffles me. You know, it's like it's one of those, like, I'm sure, as you say, like a lot of these lyrics, they're not as conscious as they appear, but it's just, I'm a sucker to be baffled.
Yeah.
You know, it's the best. You know, you're just like, oh shit, that seems deep. That's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, just what song was that?
That's in Chardonnay Sean.
Chardonnay Sean, which I've got a lot to say about both Chardonnay Sean
And Scraps.
and Scraps, of course, the twin. But
Scraps
something
kills me.
just before we get there, there's something that I just want to peg that last little moment with something here from Bob Dylan's most recent book, The Philosophy of Modern Song. I don't know if you're aware of it, but he said something that's resonated with me just on the topic of are things too silly? Are they too humorous, hating, loving, whatever? Just on the concept of music. He was writing about Hank Williams's Your Cheating Heart. He writes, that's the problem with a lot of things these days. Everything is too full now. We are spoon-fed everything. All songs are about one thing and one thing specifically. There is no shading, no nuance, no mystery. Perhaps this is why music is not a place where people put their dreams at the moment. Dreams suffocate in airless environs. And that has really stuck with me since I read it. Music is not a place where people put their dreams right now. It feels real to me.
Yeah.
'Cause I think there are lots of avenues for people to express themselves or put their energies into. You know, there's obviously infinite things, and, you know, music used to be something very focused and one of your only avenues. Does that resonate for you? Dreams are
That's
not with...
incredible. But there's sort of two ways I interpret it, though. One, in terms of, you know, your hopes and dreams, your ambitions, and maybe that's how you interpret it, Robbie. But then, also in the lyrics, to embed your lyrics with your dreams and your idealisms and your heart and your, you know, and maybe in this idea where there's no mystery, then you're no longer safe there. And I mean, I know with that line in Chardonnay Sean, that was me, I said this earlier, muddying the waters in order to make them appear deeper. You know, it didn't have, as far as I recall, some inspired, or maybe inspired, but certainly not conscious message. It just felt good. Forgot the punchline.
Chardonnay Sean.
Yeah, no.
Dylan.
Dreams.
Dreams.
Shades.
Shades. Mystique.
Yeah,
mystery.
well, just mystery is very important. You know, I mean, if you can say it directly and still have magic, and you know, then that's when you're like, I mean, that's a genius. In terms of communicating, if you can say something directly without mystery and mean exactly what you say, and it still be inspired and amazing. But most of us just need to confuse it a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's where you can then leave a bit up to the imagination, you know? And so, I mean, for me, what was conscious at the time of doing this record was wanting to be confusing, because my favorite artists confused me, and that was incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
It allowed me to fill in the blanks. Yeah.
There are so many ways I want to proceed, but you go ahead.
Oh, you're throwing it to me. Well, what favorite artists of yours confused you the most?
Well, Scott Walker's one.
Yeah, Scott
Alan
Walker.
Vega.
Yeah.
I mean, he just seems so funny to me. Lou Reed, so funny. It's like ridiculous. Morrissey's like, again, ridiculous, absurd, funny.
Yeah.
Probably he's more consciously funny. Like Lou Reed just is inherently really funny.
Yeah.
Or Alan Vega too, some sort of New York comedian thing going on, Jewish thing. And then, like, I mean, even something as obvious as John Lennon.
Yeah.
Like, really stupid and so good.
Can I?
Yeah, anyway.
No. I just on John Lennon. I do want to touch on this because I think I've been listening to Julian Lennon's most recent album recently, which I think you might enjoy. It just makes me laugh a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He's really reaching with these big concepts, and he's the wind, he's the breeze beneath your. He's love.
The breeze beneath your feet.
He's the breeze beneath your feet. He's everything. He's everything at once, and it is so deeply, earnestly trying to be everything at once, in a way that really fails in an amazing way.
But that's where interesting things happen too.
Yeah.
You know, where you shoot for something, you land somewhere else, and it should be encouraged. I mean,
I know.
I wrote this lyric today. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
It just reminded me.
Yeah.
I haven't even read it since I wrote it, let alone read it out. But it's a similar sort of trying for some metaphor using big imagery that it's really ambiguous. But anyway, some cliffs don't have a lighthouse. Some oceans have no island paradise. Some deserts snow oases. And in this game of chance, there's no roll of the dice. Yeah, I spoke with your brother. I met with your wife. They spoke to each other. And what they said, your guess is as good as mine.
Brother.
Yeah, and it goes on. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what that is. That was just like some... And the phrasing in my head when I was writing it is way better than that. Because it's not some spoken word
great.
piece. But anyway.
I like it.
I'm not mad.
It kind of reminds me of Chardonnay Sean.
Interesting.
It reminds me of I don't see your mum anymore.
Well, see, sometimes just a feeling is actually, especially with music, but even in, anything, it's the feeling that's important, and the specifics of the lyrics actually, it doesn't really matter. It's if that's going to convey some feeling, and not get in the way of the feeling.
Yeah.
The more literal you are, the more chance you're going to narrow the interpretation.
Yeah.
So if you can convey a feeling in the lyric and the tone and music and everything, it's about actually getting out of your own way. And so using maybe big ideas allows that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I think what it speaks to is, in Way to War, where you say at the end,
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Julian Lennon says a lot. I know. In this album, I'll be the wind.
Okay, that's the big difference.
I know.
Yeah.
So
it's the punctuation mark instead of the open-ended or a question mark or
music is a question, right? That's that's the,
Not to
I don't know,
him.
to muddy it with this blunt force,
or just limits it completely.
It's so
Bash
funny.
it over the head. That sounds great. I might listen to this on my drive home.
I think you should. I think you'll actually really like it.
I have a story actually. I stayed in his bed one time.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
I think it's Julian's.
Sean?
One of those Lennon boys. Might have been Sean, yeah.
It might be more a Sean thing. I don't
Maybe
know.
it's more of a Sean thing. I'm not sure. Sure. I'm not sure. Who's the younger one?
Sean's the younger one. Julian's the tortured sort of,
Sean's got the
So at this stage, I hadn't met either. I mean, I'm not sure now which one I've met. but-
Yoko's son is Sean. I'm not sure if that makes it any better.
yeah, it was Sean.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was Thanksgiving, and I'd just flown into New York, and my friend Yuka Honda has a band called Chibamato, who I'd toured with her and Miho, and she invited me to her place for Thanksgiving. Turns out is John Lennon's old house in New York, and she used to date either Sean or Julian, but then still lives there with her partner now, who is Nils Klein from Wilco.
Oh.
right.
I don't know. I just it was very sweet of her. She invited me to a place, and I ended up in this John Lennon's house with Nels from Wilco, and having this Thanksgiving experience flying straight to America. It was very surreal.
Yeah.
And then ended up crashing there in Sean, I guess, bedroom there was just lots of John Lennon's stuff around.
Wow.
And his instruments were downstairs. It was a surreal experience. Yeah.
That leads us to the ghost story.
Oh.
John's ghost.
Yes, exactly.
Appeared in the night.
I realized as I was saying this that the story's not particularly good, and it sounds
that's
like
okay.
just a sort of name-dropping story, but it was a bizarre feeling. Yeah.
It would have been. No,
wild.
I'd love to hear some John ephemera. That's good. All right, yeah, Chardonnay Sean. Chardonnay Sean and Scraps.
Yep.
Both really good. I am very curious about lyrically, they delve into vehicular themes, crashes, cars.
Yep.
Your new song, Young Drunk Driver, obviously, same thing. What is it about vehicles to you?
I was thinking about this today because I was listening to The Blue Nile with Jonty, and there's a song on that album called Automobile Noise, and it does this similar thing, and I'd never considered it before, but where the car is this good metaphor, or a vague metaphor really, but if not even a metaphor, just sort of somehow so banal and suburban, yet there's potential tragedy or nostalgia associated with the family car or something, or first, I don't know, it's a big life moment when you get your license or you get your first car, or I don't know, there's lots in it.
There is.
There's something so banal about, like in this Blue Nile thing, automobile noise or drunk driving, or Chardonnay Sean is about a car crash. Scraps is about destroying an old car. I don't know. There's a great sentimental attachment to cars, though. You know, there's a huge culture around it. Even
There seems to be a romance, even in the idea of a car crash.
And this is a hangover maybe from Bruce Springsteen sort of thing, and it's a very Americana kind of idea.
Yep.
I don't know what it is, but I also just like the idea of being able, of trying to take something that's so, because I've also done this. There's a song called Family Home on Bravado that actually I'm just as I was saying it, realised it's essentially the same thing, although it's not about a car, but trying to take the banal or everyday and find its romance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really all it is, I think.
It is, but I think like it's a rare thing for somebody to do that. The only car songs I can think of are Drive My Car, Shut Up and Drive. Those are the only two songs I can think of. No, nobody deals with it in that sort of totemic way that I think you do on those songs, and I think it's good on you. They're good stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm not really interested in writing about hot rods or something.
Yeah.
But it's
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. That might become a romantic
Cars I love.
But I can think of a bunch of songs though that use this same idea. There's a Prefab Sprout song called "Cars and Girls," which, as far as I can tell, is a they're very British, sort of Irish British from Derry, England, but Paddy McAloon is his name, so it's very Irish and Scottish. Anyway, it feels like a very British take on an American idea, but now with this, again, sort of bleak yet romantic British thing. And maybe I'm doing a similar Australian take on that, like a bit more suburban, banal, bored, but romantic too.
I feel, and again, tell me if I'm way off the mark, but I feel with the extreme Australiana in your projects and in this one, and the reference to cars and the reference to like violence and crashes and all this kind of stuff, I feel like there's a real connection between your music and Mad Max.
That's great.
Is that anything you've ever thought about or considered? Like, is it ever?
No, but as you were saying this, though, I was thinking as the counterpoint that maybe a lot of artists make work as a way of trying to be something else. And I was thinking about movies, and not in nothing specific, but just in a vague term. As you were speaking then, Dad, I was thinking, maybe a lot of artists are trying to pretend to be something else, play a role like you would in a movie. And whilst I have that in my everyday life, actually, no more in my music than in my everyday life, or at least at the time, and the way I dress and hold myself, and but then similarly, I'm really interested, I think, in truth, and I think the albums, actually what makes them good is that they're not referential of films, or it's why it's called Embracism. It's an opposite of escapism. It was about the Australian in it, or the masculinity in it, whether it be toxic or celebratory or whatever. None of it was conscious. It was just because I am Australian and because I am male, and I was trying to pull from a place of truth. And I think that's what ultimately makes it resonant. And you can have all the stylistic tropes or leanings or present it in some way, but unless the core is got some truth, and like I said earlier, even if that truth is presented in a lie, because it's then kind of more revealing in a way. And I probably would start to go in circles if I keep speaking. So.
Okay. The New Music Friday project, Seconds Flat.
Mm-hmm.
I think it initially was with Mac DeMarco.
Yep.
It had a lead singer in it called Sean, I believe.
Yes.
Related to Chardonnay Sean in any way?
No, that's just his real name.
That's just Sean's actual name.
That's Sean's name, yeah.
Fair enough. Done. Move on.
Chardonnay Sean was my primary school best friend, was named Sean.
Okay.
And I moved around as a kid, lost contact with him. But that song was written about, had we remained friends into our teenage years, then there was sort of this tragic story that I wrote that was about us crashing his father's car and him dying.
Right.
Yeah. And me visiting his grave, which was maybe actually, when I think about it now, some sort of Freudian making sense of this lost friendship, because he did die. And I did, because we were really good friends in primary school.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've never thought that until just now. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Look, I want to touch on a couple of things, but I'll do it through Stretch It Out and Way to War, because I think these ones are very dynamic vocally. I mean, the whole album is very dynamic vocally, but there must have been a process of you coming to grips with who you were artistically in that sense. And I want to know how that was for you, because it's a very bold thing you're doing. And I imagine you would have been met with a lot of different reactions through the process of learning where that confidence
I mean,
was.
the best reaction is when it meant something to people. You know, and even when that's few and far between, if you get some message from someone saying a song's helped them through some time or whatever, that's the ones that stick with you. But I was trying to prove myself to myself, and like stretch it out. I mean, it got quite ridiculed. Maybe it was the Pitchfork review, or one review said that song. It just said it was really boring. Which sort of made no sense. I was like, really? What? Like, I could understand if you said it wasn't good, but it's definitely not boring, you know?
Yeah. I don't think so. I think the imagery that it's conjuring is pretty...
Yeah, well, the lyrics of that song I thought were some of the best I'd ever written. But I was really trying hard at that stage just to prove myself to myself that I could be... that I could write. I never thought of myself as a writer. I barely read, let alone write, you know? And so I was really trying, yeah.
But I mean, just in the guttural sense of you singing.
Yep. Oh, yep.
Do you remember your first gig?
Yes.
Singing in front of people?
Yeah.
With sort of original content?
Yep.
Can you tell us about it?
Well, first, like, proper gig at a venue booked kind of thing was opening for Patrick Wolf. Do you remember him? Anyone?
I don't know Patrick Wolf.
No.
But there was my 21st birthday party, and the drummer of Mercy Arms, Jules, and I just were obliterated, and we just got up and started performing at Candy's apartment in the Cross. And it was definitely a reaction to not being able to sing. And that's why, I mean, Scott Walker's an incredible singer, but when I heard The Drift, it's like him wailing and grunting and being incredibly theatrical. And I couldn't believe anyone would pay for someone to make an album that sounded like that, let alone want to listen to it. So that was the thing that made it feel okay to sing like that. And then the fact that I couldn't really hold a note, you get away with more by just grunting or yelping, and then you do it more and more. You do it anyway, and then you get a bit better. But still, when I listen to Embracism, it's all over the place in terms of the pitch, and it's so affectatious. I'm kind of singing like that constantly. It's kind of ridiculous to me. But I also remember thinking at the time, why would you not sing like that? Because that's kind of interesting. And maybe, again, that idea of through that persona that I'm clearly putting on, it was more revealing of myself, actually. Like, it showed also the insecure boy that wasn't comfortable in his skin, or the desire to impress or the desire to be weird, and it's all in there. Whereas if someone was just to sing, I've got quite a nice voice, I think, now, just after years and years of playing literally hundreds and hundreds of shows. You'd hope so. Otherwise, like, should well and truly be doing something else, and I might yet just do something else. But
it's a beautiful voice.
But I think I've got a quite nice voice now, but it's way less revealing to my personality, being able to sing.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. You know, I think the songwriters, I mean, it helps if they write good songs, but the singers, I believe, the most in the world are never the best singers, you know. It's the Lou Reeds and...
For sure.
It's the ones that, Bob Dylan's, where their voices are weird. So you're like, well, why are you doing this? Yeah. You must have something to say, and you'll listen to the words.
You've got something on your heart. That's why you don't care.
And it turns out they do. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
If you just sort of sounded like... which I quite like the idea of someone just...
What do you think?
It's just like not being able to sing and having nothing to say and doing it anyway. That's interesting. Yeah.
What do you think of artists like Elton John, who have a beautiful voice and have all this talent but sing other people's words?
Yeah, I think Elton's amazing.
Yep.
I went and saw him at Allianz Stadium recently in the pouring rain. But admittedly, I only got there for the last 2 songs.
Oh, no.
So I didn't care that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if it had been Scott
Yeah.
before his
Could have been there
death,
from the start.
yeah, absolutely.
That singing that you did before, you said that you were masking the fact that you felt like you couldn't sing very well at the time.
Yeah, not even consciously.
Not consciously, yeah. It's the lyrics. Way to War, I think, is my favourite song off Embracism.
Mm-hmm.
And the lyrics, the ring of power surrounding truth, the ring of truth surrounding nothing. It reminds me, surrounding nothing. If I remembered, I wouldn't need reminding.
Mm-hmm.
It's those lyrics, you kind of like mutter that out at the end, and it's so fucking funny and brilliant. That whole phrase of lyrics to me just feels like a circle that just gets you back to the same spot. But it's also very, I don't know, it's very mythical lyrics.
I was really into this 5.5-hour YouTube conspiracy homemade documentary called The Ring of Power.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
Sort of about Rothschilds and Rockefellers, Orsatti, reptilians, this sort of thing. I was really on that tip. And that's one song that I'd written up in the Blue Mountains.
Okay.
And the first version of that song is just a little sort of 2-minute home demo that I released, and it has a video you can still see on YouTube that ended up going on to like be displayed at the National Gallery of Victoria as an art piece, and it won the Triple J Video Clip of the Year award for a song that they never played on Triple J. Which at the time, I mean, I'm grateful, especially in retrospect, because in the time it felt like them saying we want to, even though these music's we're not prepared to play music on the radio, or our listeners won't like it or whatever, they wanted to, it was of artistic merit, I suppose, or cool even, to say that they supported Kirin J Callinan.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's the complete opposite. So yeah, grateful in retrospect.
They don't have a choice in the matter. You're too prolific. You keep popping up here. Genesis and everything. I mean, they're playing that.
The Genesis thing has been interesting because ever since being cancelled, even if anyone in the industry speaks to me in person or whatever, they think, Kirin, that was a bunch of bullshit, or, we've always loved you. And maybe that's the case. And, it's nice, or the least confrontational thing to hear from someone.
Sure.
As opposed to, you're a piece of shit. Which you get on the internet.
Yeah.
But I've not been booked for a major festival or played on the radio or anything since
the
end of 2017 at the Arias. And
Robbie, show the shirt to the camera. Show the...
Oh, yeah, true. That's right. I forgot. I don't even have one of these.
Well... This is my shirt.
I bought it. Okay,
and I gave it's now Robbie's. I've given it to him. I'm too fat for it, but it's a fantastic shirt.
Yeah. And these were the real tour dates that all got cancelled.
Yeah. This would I have bought this when you were supporting Mac DeMarco?
Yeah, that would be right. Because those shows didn't get cancelled. Mac still had me.
Yeah, that's
true friend.
Was it I think we'll say, Rob. Well, I'm not going to speak for Robbie, but officially, that was bullshit. And free the dick. And I think it was sexy as fuck. You being on that runway, it was just so fucking real. You like in cowboy boots, you were looking so good, and you just lifting up and just showing the salve. It's so.
Yeah, it's interesting to me in the sense that after being in the music industry one way or another since late teenager with Mercy Arms. So it'd been over a decade that I'd been a part of the conversation, but never really, especially as a solo artist, welcomed into the mainstream, never been nominated for an ARIA or anything like this before.
Yeah.
And at the moment I just instantly repelled myself, like as
the naughty kid that gets sent out of class and immediately given
straight away this is totally wrong.
Get out.
It's been a big mistake. But I certainly wasn't intending it to be anything. In fact, I didn't intend to do it at all. It was just a very spontaneous, natural thing to do. And it was in this acting class that I was meant to do the Zoom for tonight, Sexuality on Screen. She's amazing. She was, getting, we talk. She's very holistic in her approach, and she wanted to get sort of the root cause of why, when she had me read lines on screen, she wanted me to play Tommy Lee. Okay. From the Pam and Tommy show.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it, but so I read these lines in the character of Tommy, and Tommy's a bad boy who has an inherent sexual energy.
Yeah,
and maybe I have that at times in person, but certainly on camera reading these lines, I definitely did not.
Oh, really?
And she tried to get into, well, who was it that made you feel shame over your sexual power?
Ooh.
And this moment came up for me. And anyway, by 20 minutes later in this class, she had me in tears, screaming at her, how, fuck you, how dare you take away my sexual energy? How dare, she wanted me to let go what she perceived to be, and probably correctly, latent anger and a blockage now. And it made me think, fuck, how dare they fucking, because the whole thing was, I was made to feel shame. And feel like a pervert, There was an article written at the time, and this was the central thing of why it hit me so hard, was the timing. But there was an article written at the time about Harvey Weinstein, and put my name in the same sense as Harvey Weinstein.
No.
Because I'd flashed a photographer, who had asked me to do it,
Oh, had they?
Oh, absolutely. No, it was a private photography area where a number of photographers, but one in particular, was like, what's under the kilt, for a good half an hour. And as I was walking away, I turned and gave him a little sort of flick, and there was a few laughs, and that was it.
And that was...
It wasn't until days later that it really snowballed into a sort of political hot topic.
Was there ever a chance for you to explain the context to talk about?
Sure, but only to those who listen, and those Bang for Blood weren't interested in truth. They weren't interested in anything other than, I think, to my surprise, there'd been people that didn't like, and, naive and foolish of me to think otherwise, but that didn't like my larger-than-life persona, didn't like my music, were maybe cultural gatekeepers, felt they didn't get it, or they were ridiculed, or that I don't know, who knows what their motivations were, but didn't like me for whatever reason, and were waiting for you to fuck up. Yeah, and this became, it wasn't just toxic masculinity. I was called everything from racist to ableist.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to argue these positions. Like, no, I'm not. It's like,
and now we have articles like there was one in The Guardian recently that just said, free the dick.
Yeah.
Did it? Free the nip, free the dick.
It's good on Harry Styles or whatever, but it is a little bit of a slap in the face when
bullshit.
you see this sort of...
Did he get his dick out?
Well, no, I don't know about it. I mean, I'm sure he has.
Well,
that would be a bit fucked up, actually. Doesn't he have underage shows? That would be fucked.
Just imagine if Harry Styles just jerked off in front of Navy Stadium in front of
$400. No thanks.
Really slow, like he's really drugged out, just jerking off, looking at the crowd.
And there's just the pre-record of his song playing. Yeah,
and it's just like, and then I fucking love like slowly jerking off.
Yeah.
Kirin, I think that's something that I wanted to. That's why, part of the reason why I'm such a big fan of you, because Robbie and I talk about music nearly every episode. Just to give you a bit of context, talk about everything, but we end up talking about music all the time. And it's so boring talking about Australia and tall poppy syndrome. But I often talk to Robbie about how we celebrate likability. And relatability and like mild personalities and like where
mediocrity.
Where the audience can project themselves on people, whereas in the States, in any other country where you see characters like Kanye West, like Springsteen icons that bring a fashion, bring an aesthetic, bring a mode. And I feel like that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally see what you mean, where people were waiting for you to fuck up because they don't like it. And it sounds like, well, this happened in America, but it sounds like the same in when you got fucking deported.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like your steez.
Yeah, I mean, I'd sort of not thought about it too much, but all the artists I like were apparently divisive, and
Right.
it just stands to reason that I would make work in the, in the image of my idols that would somehow carry a similar polarity. But I think also it's not just an Australian issue.
Okay.
Definitely there is that thing, for example, if I'd go on, when I was doing a lot of press stuff, which I haven't done in a while, so thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
When I'd go on and do an interview, say in France, and the interviewers would know more about your music or your process than I seemed, about my own work than I did, or at least had very insightful and challenging questions. And then you go on, say on Triple J or something. Did I ever go on Triple J? I'm not sure. Maybe. Seem to remember. Or even not even my experience, just my idea of what that is, going to Triple J. And it's like, if your music was a flavour of ice cream, what would it be? So there is that thing, but then I'm sitting here with you guys. I know you're Kiwi, Robbie. And the Kiwis are often more thoughtful in their critique, but you I don't think this is inherently Australian. It's not an issue of intelligence. There is some sort of cultural issue. I think it's more to do with. Okay, I'll tell you one thing that I don't think has helped the musical landscape is the rise and prominence of music festivals. Because this is a thing where everyone needs to get along and have a harmonious, good time.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have artists that are divisive in these sorts of circumstances, I think it just doesn't really work.
No.
And so even politically, everyone needs to sort of have the same collective view or else. Which is never in an intelligent society or with complex issues never going to be the case. There's always going to be multiple views, and so there should, and multiple tastes. But, I was at WOMAD yesterday, played the festival, it was great, but there was this big thing on one of the main stages, and it said like, vote yes for the proposition for an Indigenous voice in Parliament.
Right.
Now I think for most people at that festival at least, and probably most people Australia-wide, without thinking about it, would be like, that's a good thing. We should have an Indigenous voice in Parliament.
Yeah.
Great. But it occurred to me that this might be a complex issue for even Indigenous people, say the sovereignty movement, that don't want to cede, and I'm just going on a thing I saw yesterday. This is not something particularly present for me, but I just saw this thing, vote yes on Indigenous voice in Parliament. And I was thinking, well, maybe there's a lot of Aboriginal people that would be against having a voice in Parliament because they never ceded, the land, and to have a voice in Parliament sort of says that you're ceding and
participating,
and maybe actually there's like, actually we don't want anything to do with your whole way. We want to just do it our way, and fuck off. And now that's a sort of complex and antagonistic to a largely white audience at WOM Adelaide, middle-aged, white audience in Adelaide at the World Music Festival. That would be a complex thing, and that's what made me think yesterday, well, there's not really a space in a festival thing for complex, multi-dimensional, divisive topics. Now that would extend to the music, it's all about a good time. And then it occurred to me, and that's why I don't get booked to play festivals. And I'm not being ironic. I was like, I naively, when was making music and forming my identity, created something that was divisive and a bit scary even. because that was interesting to me.
Yeah.
Scott Walker, Alan Vega, just the 80s in general is full of these scary characters. Madonna, Michael Jackson, terrifying. These were the biggest artists in the world.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
now even in film, your big, leading males were these quite, or just actors in general, quite, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example.
Timothy Chalamet.
Well, yeah,
Marlon
now,
Brando?
I don't know. It's like, I think of, what's his face?
Jack Nicholson?
Well, yeah, Jack Nicholson, great example. Terrifying, bring up lots of emotions,
Yeah, yeah.
sexual, murderous.
Violent, angry.
Yeah. And who's the main leading guy in Hollywood now? What's his name? Just the most banal, vanilla.
Oh, like
I don't even know his name.
Tom Hart. No.
fucking-
There's
No, he's
the
not. I might just be clutching at something.
there's the
and
Irish guy. I mean,
constructing something.
I think you're right. There's the Irish nice guy that Mr. Mescal or whatever, Would you like me to put
Pedro.
a condom on?
Oh.
Would you like me to?
You kill me with this shit.
Have you seen that from Normal People? Everyone's dying about this guy. After Sun is the new movie.
I actually shouldn't be commenting on
No. Oh, yeah. Let's
film and TV because I don't watch
true.
enough. But
But
definitely with
You know what I mean.
music at a festival, if you're gonna make half the crowd having a bad time, then, or even a big portion, it's probably going to spill into the vibe of the whole thing. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it makes sense to me. Yeah.
How
Why?
are you now post cancelling? Has it settled down? Do you still feel the echo effect? Like, not getting booked for festivals, obviously.
Yeah,
but
well, it's the genesis of the Wusu thing that, my very central involvement in, and he's, sort of unprecedented, and we certainly didn't predict that it would be anywhere near as critically as successful as it's been.
yeah,
Winning heaps of awards and that sort of thing. My involvement with that is sort of like a soft welcoming back, I suppose.
for sure. Does it feel good?
And with a black Australian rapper,
Yeah.
rapping about his mental struggles and racial inequality and whatever else. They can't really say anything about it. It's like, so
Good.
and he's the real deal. So yeah, it's interesting, but I'd like to come back on my own terms with my own music. And the real thing is I have to take full responsibility of everything, including this. As easy it might be to say, I was hard done by or it was bullshit. Ultimately, I did that, and that's what happened. And had I been a streaker at the cricket, maybe I wouldn't have had as much moral outrage, but I would have had a bigger fine. So I don't know. Then and again, the other thing is musically, I probably, as much as you guys seem to really appreciate my work, I haven't actually given something that major festivals or radio stations or the general populace could really get behind. Certainly haven't given anything consistently enough. So, I'm not bitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Dumb Enough is pretty rousing.
You know what? The last few songs I've put out, I think, have been my best in terms of songwriting. Starting with You're Gonna Miss Me When I'm Gone. Everything after Return to Center, You're Gonna Miss Me When I'm Gone, Dumb Enough, in absolutes, and Young Drunk Driver now. But they've had relatively small impact. Now, it could be because they're not associated with a record or not yet. Could be that I think the industry does hold more power than I ever when everything's going right for you, when you're young and everyone's saying you're a genius, you choose to buy into it, believe it. It serves your self-worth and your identity to believe it. And it serves your artistry to believe it, potentially. But I think actually they hold so much power collectively into what is what makes it or what doesn't. And it's very hard, I think, when you're already how'd you go, rolled the dice. I've had a few rolls of the dice. I've been very lucky to be the next hot thing when your name's already been out there. So, for me now, I'm sort of on the long eternal plane to death. But this is actually this is the good stuff if I can stick with it, because this is just where you build the real fans. There's no bullshit. Your body of work will eventually speak for itself.
Yeah, 100%. Fuck yeah.
People say,
and I feel I actually feel quite embarrassed talking. I don't get me wrong, I enjoy it, and I don't have an opportunity much to indulge in this sort of pompous self appraisal or inventory or whatever. But so thanks for having us.
Go ahead, Kirin. It's a joy to have you here. It's a great thrill.
It's a great
and to get your honest thoughts is a joy. Curious, just on that last point, I don't want to beat it around too much, but we talked on a recent episode about the notion of everything being political and how it's very easy to basically say that is the case. Mm-hmm. It's easy to argue that with logic and words and things, but I like to think that not everything is, and that there is a sacred space for things like genuine friendship and connection and things like this. And do you see a world that is becoming not as easy to find those sacred spaces?
It's interesting you use the word sacred space, because I think there's a real loss of spirituality in people talk about spirituality, but like genuine spiritual general feeling and just instinct and intuition and things that are hard to be logical about. The biggest decisions in my life, as I'm sure most people, if they're connected to some higher self or some sense of higher self at least, belief in that sort of thing or any sort of faith, make their big decisions based from the gut, whether it be their romantic, their love life, you could have all the rational, they're beautiful, they're this, that, and whatever, but if you're not feeling it, and then meanwhile I've gone for a bunch of idiots that I just fell madly in love with.
Yeah. That's a very good point.
I don't know why I even said that's not even true, but but I do. These things are, and it's. I guess it's not possible to have, or very difficult to have discourse on him. I don't know. Actually, then I'm thinking that actually most of it's emotional and yeah, I don't know.
Well, what you fall to is the idea that everything's reactionary. I think it's like that. That when you go deep enough, it's all just logical reasoning with whatever's in the gut. I'm interested just on that about your fire at the time of Embracism. We'll loop it back 2013, 2012. Where was the fire for you at that time? And I think I might know the answer. It's the sort of the crumbling of the relationship and it's sort of finding a sense of self again. And is that fire still the same for you now, do you think?
No, it's taken on different forms. Definitely feeling like you want to prove yourself to people that doubt you. And that is often could be a failed relationship, it doesn't get easier. Maybe if there was more of an economy or an economy at all around what I did, but then again, that could feel like it's sort of then you're working out of duty or whatever, which I could do if I had children. I think if I had children, it would give me a motivation to go on. But this perpetual, or thus far, constant having to serve my own survival, whether it be literal survival, putting food on the table or for myself, or a roof over my head, or just the survival of the idea of Kirin J Callinan, and that sort of self-important or narcissistic thing, that wanes thin, so it doesn't get easier. And I do, like, it occurred to me the other day that it's not out of the realm of possibilities. I could just move to Greece or somewhere, or Indonesia or something, and open up a small cafe and be at the beach and probably have a beautiful wife. And I was like, why am I not doing that?
Yeah.
And it's that wouldn't have satisfied me at a younger age, no doubt.
Yeah.
But now that's really attractive proposition. And why am I doing this thing that makes me next to no money? In fact, I pour my money into it. You know, I'm juggling a million things just to try to make it happen. I carry a weight of expectation and perfectionism and a lot of pressure, and it's all the things I love most in life, music, being sort of milked dry and having to be, only to be, you know, called a racist or a misogynist online or something, you know.
Yeah.
I had someone comment on my Instagram today saying, my friend, from an account called, what was it called? I'm thinking it's called Redstone Dildo.
Okay.
With 0 followers, following 0 people with 0 posts.
Yeah.
Pure trolling account.
Yeah.
Commenting on my Instagram today saying, my friend had sex with Kirin and he spat inside her vagina. And I was like, I didn't know what to take from that. I was like, is this even... let alone when you know you get sort of threats online, especially from someone coming from someone that is supposedly coming from some sort of moral high ground to make a threat is crazy to me, or just crazy. But even that thing was confusing. Like, did I? It's possible. It's not something I made a habit of, but. Yeah, that was. I don't know. I just didn't know what.
Did it ruin your day?
Well, I just got very is this someone attack or what? Is this?
It's not necessarily a bad thing, though.
Yeah, well, it's a thing. Maybe in a hot, consensual, sexy moment that could be really, really sexy.
That's kind of sexy.
And or in another way, it's really off. But it really depends on the moment. So, and I don't know what the specific moment, but it was just a weird in public forum, and I just got off the plane and I saw this. And I tried to think what my good friend Michael would do if he had this, and he'd just be like, "Oh, delete it." So I was like, okay, I deleted it, and then I don't delete comments usually, and I like confusion and discourse. So I don't know why I delete, but I thought, what would Michael do? And I instantly regretted deleting it. And sure enough, another hour passed, and then the same person's commenting about, you know, me deleting their comment, and then going, and then so I've just left it now. And they've commented a couple times about me spinning in some vagina. Right. Apparently,
it's such a weird claim.
And it's like, what? But I guess my point is, why am I doing all this stuff to this is the end net result?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Something you might relate to on a previous episode, Robbie and we went and saw In the Court of the Crimson King, the new doco about King Crimson. And his name escapes me now, the drummer.
Bill Bruford.
He was, you know, it was such a... Do you like King Crimson?
What's the album?
21st.
Red.
Red.
Red. Yeah.
Is it just Red?
It's called Red. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
The three silhouettes.
Yeah. With Robert Fripp.
Yeah.
That's the one that I listened to most, but again,
Okay.
not since I was probably 19 years old.
Yeah. Well, the drummer, everyone was talking about in the band what a labour and what a kind of terrible experience it was being in King Crimson, and that it was so demanding. And the drummer of the band, one of the two drummers of the band, he was actually dying of, and then by the time the documentary aired, he had died, and he had like multiple like stomach cancers, and he was using his final moments on Earth, his final months on Earth, touring with one of the most demanding, like, you know, according to these guys, bands on Earth, and he kind of said it's just it's what he does, it's what he's born to do, so that's why he does it. And maybe it's the case with you.
Well, I mean, that's a very noble and idealistic and beautiful idea, and there's truth in that. Like, I've long thought of myself as a lifer, you know, that this is what I'm doing now. But then again, sometimes that's sort of like, was that really limiting? And
Yeah.
Just go to something completely different. And I've had this amazing, and I think I said earlier, I'm not bitter about anything, but I definitely held more ambition. I held ambition to be probably a bigger artist than I am today.
Yeah.
But also very happy with the records I have made.
Yeah.
And the surreal things that happen, like say Big Enough going viral, or there's been some really wild chapters and some crazy shows and experiences I've had. So I don't know. I don't know.
I'm excited to see what happens after the next release.
I've got so much good music. That was one of the good things over the COVID time for me, is I just made lots of music.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
So we've got a few more songs to cover off Embracism before we wrap it up.
Do we actually?
Yeah,
we've felt like such a lovely point.
Back into the body of it.
Honestly,
back to work.
Can I say, we talked about the slow rush one time on this podcast, and we got so much flack for going through the track list like we did, even though like I'm a big fan of that.
What, that you didn't go chronological?
We just went list. We just listed through.
People
and
like this.
People didn't like it.
People hated that.
Hated it.
Maybe they didn't want to hear just, I don't know. Look, we won't take up too much of your
I'd
time.
imagine people being annoyed by jumping around or something. Maybe their favourite song is missed.
Maybe they don't care about the album. I don't know. Yeah. I love it. Do you like the slow rush?
Tame Impala record?
Yeah.
I don't know if I actually ever listened to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Robbie and I talked about that record, and the original episode didn't air because we got in a fight so bad that we had to stop recording.
It's actually true, yeah.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah. Wow. But I
because you didn't listen to it properly.
I did. But
the last song's Love Delay.
Mm-hmm.
I've written here, lovely, dynamic, and pummeling closer. It feels like a nice summation of the themes presented. There's Smithsy energy. There's sort of industrial pummel. Mm-hmm. I guess it touches on the idea of love quite blatantly. Mm-hmm. Is it a big favourite of yours?
It was a special song when I wrote it. And again, like Victoria M, was one that I'd written much earlier. I used to play it solo with delay on the guitar. It was my own sort of little internal evolution that on Love Delay there is no delay on the guitars, but the song was written very much with a very heavy delay, where I could play one chord, dunk dunk dunk, and it would keep dunk 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 bum ba dunk 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 dunk, and sing over top of this sort of looping delay thing, because I couldn't really sing and play guitar so well at the same time, which really actually was, when I think back, the whole formative thing of how I started singing and performing to begin with, was not being able to play and sing at the same time. So I'd have to do some sort of crazy affected guitar thing to create the space to sing these big dramatic lines, and that eventually evolved into Embracism. But Love Delay was really just about performance, and but maybe much like playing with femininity, or playing with just playing with gender in such a typical way got really boring. Love Delay as a song got quite boring as well, and so I had to reinvent it in those sessions, and it was the simple thing of just turning the delay off, and now it felt really cool and kind of mathy or something. Absurd lyrics, not really about anything, but again, just a feeling.
Strong feeling, strong closer. And just lastly here, I want to talk about the album cover. You've mentioned, I think you posted about it a while back, that it Frank Ocean's Blonde, you were suggesting, was somewhat similar. Do you think is that true, or is that
no? That was me joking. Someone online had made that comparison, and I think he's holding his head in his
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's similar. It is similar.
and then had also someone else, maybe on Reddit or something, that analogy had been made, and then also the latest Jack Ladder album at the time, the album layout was the exact same. So it was sort of funny that Tim and I, who played on each other's records, have been as close to collaborators as anyone. If you merged our two records together, you pretty much got Blonde. And I kind of made that joke, or, just sort of left it on my Instagram. And maybe that was where people started calling me a racist.
That's right.
And, I remember people quite earnestly, sincerely commenting on there, like the tone deafness of a white artist claiming that a black man had ripped him off or something. I was like, oh my,
Right.
it hadn't even occurred to me that was even, that it was, anything to do with, it was nothing to do with race, obviously. But yeah, that was probably the first time I started to encounter that sort of,
Oh, wow.
and maybe also informed my complete, irregard for that sort of
discussion
thing. Yeah, that event ultimately. I think I always thought I was more clever than the people attacking me with such sort of dumb, lack of nuanced sort of arguments. And naively, sort of like you would if you had to go to court for a crime, if they didn't have actual evidence, that it would be thrown out.
Yeah.
But I was naive in the end to think that the court of public opinion was the same as that, or that things couldn't be, twisted and construed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no real time for ID politics.
No, fair enough.
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Last little tidbit question: Lonerism, obviously 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have the Embracism name in mind before then?
Embracism, the name was it was Kim Moyes.
Oh,
that came up with it. Yeah, I think because when we made the instrumental, which was his impetus, I think he named it Embracism.
Right.
And then I finally wrote the lyrics where I incorporate the word embrace in the lyric as the main sort of vocal refrain, but I never say the word Embracism.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess then when trying to work out the album title, it was just sort of obvious,
Yeah.
And since then, Bravado's, there's a title track, and the new album is called If I Could Sing, which is one of the songs on the album as well. It sort of just then became a thing to just pick a song, make that the record. Yeah, the song that seems to encapsulate the overall mood.
Yeah.
beautiful.
Now that, we're coming up to 10 years,
Yep.
how do you feel about the project now?
Kirin J Callinan
About Embracism. How does it sit in your mind or in your heart?
Yeah, I don't think about it very much, but
Yeah.
it occurred to me earlier with you guys talking about it, and Robbie, you reading the lyrics out. Frankly, I was like, it was really good. Those lyrics are really good. And maybe being detached from it, where it doesn't even feel like I wrote it. And I'd say the best ones, you don't really write yourself because it's not a cerebral process.
Yeah.
You open yourself up for the divine spark, but or at least pull it out of your gut.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel good about hearing it now, and I think the few times that I would revisit it, or if something would come on, generally I'm like surprised with how real it is.
Yeah.
Because at the time I definitely carried an insecurity that I was as I said at the beginning, maybe watering it down, or just through the act of collaboration, diluting the act of collaboration, and also by being a sort of studio slick sounding record, the ambition of it also felt like, to my purist self, that it compromised the raw, visceral integrity of the record. You know, but it felt like I was trying to play the game at least a little bit. The game that I didn't. That's not what it was all about.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually that's a good thing as well. Like it's important to be ambitious. In fact, that's one of the most attractive traits. And I think if you're not pushing yourself, it's only worth as much as you're prepared to give.
Yeah.
You've got to give.
Got to give.
Got to give in this life.
Yeah.
And Kirin, you've given a lot tonight.
Exactly.
We want to give you a big welcome to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight, and thank you for the music.
Thank you so much.
We're excited for the new stuff. And is there any indication on when we can expect that?
I'm hoping for June.
See, this is June, July. Your albums come out.
That's the thing. They always come out in June, July.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Any story to that?
Yep. Two things. I think it's the northern summer. Well, there's that. It's like it's a good time to put out records. Apparently, I don't know why, but if you want Americans and Europeans to be listening to your album in the summertime, having the summer of their lives, then that's a good time to put it out. But then the reason this one's coming out in June, because I've made most of it in 2021, so I've been sitting on it for ages, is astrologically. Apparently, and we'll see if it does come out June 9th, but June 9th is meant to be a really good time for Aquariuses such as myself to put new ideas into the world.
Oh, that's cool.
So we'll see.
Hell yeah. And you've got the Genesis Owusu Sydney Opera House Symphony gig coming up?
Yep. I'm not playing.
You're not playing at that one?
I was replaced with the symphony, basically.
Oh.
That was the thing. I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
But my parts are what the symphony's doing.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which, if you're going to get replaced, it better be a fucking symphony. But I will be jumping up and singing a song.
Great. Fuck yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Well, it's been such a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much. Kirin J Callinan.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you to the behind the scenes team as well. We've got Hugh Raper here, Sean Conlon, Charlie Waldren.
Thank you guys, making it all
Big help.
happen.
Thanks very much. Yeah. All right. Drink LA Ice and enjoy those Smith's chips.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers.